The Hurling Pod.
On Off the Ball.
With Applegreen. Making every journey better.
Very welcome along. 100 years of the National Hurling League, 100 years of the Gaelic Grounds. We're kind of wondering, was it a home-away agreement? It actually made perfect sense to have it in the Gaelic Grounds when it was the 100-year anniversary as well. 1-7 from Aaron Gillane on the day, helping Limerick win league title number 15, a 6-point win against Cork. The Treaty have now, quite remarkably as well, won 18 of their 19 finals under John Kiely. We'll remember the one that they lost, which came last year. They avenged that somewhat at the weekend just gone by. Clare were crowned Division 1B champions as well. Most of their good work was in the first half against Dublin. The only issue for Brian Lohan coming out of the game, they're now sweating over knocks, which were picked up by Shane O'Donnell and Mark Rogers ahead of the start of the Munster Championship in 2 weeks' time. Albeit, Rogers, when he was on the telly, said his injury doesn't seem too serious. The Hurling Pod here and Off the Ball, of course, is with thanks to Applegreen. It's helping you relax, recharge and enjoy the journey ahead. Paul Murphy, how are you?
Good lads, how are you?
And fresh back from the Gaelic Grounds, James Skehill, how are you?
So far, so good.
Good. Did you have a good day out in the Gaelic Grounds, first of all?
I did, yeah. I personally love doing games in Limerick anyways, because as we talked about before, the gantry is right out on top of the pitch. So you feel like you're obviously you have great access to, you can hear everything the management say. Everything. You know, obviously you can't hear the small discussions, but the messages they give to their players out on the pitch, you can hear everything, which is interesting. And you feel like you're in the middle of the crowd, whilst also having a bird's eye view. I love that place.
Yeah, it's fun because what I find as well is usually, at least where our off the ball spot is in the middle of the gantry, you will basically have the TV commentary just to the side of you, so you'll hear them rattling along as you go when you're coming in and out of the radio. But the two local radio stations are usually just to your left as well. So you will hear the local radio stations quite enthusiastically because the noise both comes up from the pitch at the Gaelic Grounds into the gantry, but also the noise kind of comes around the corner because there's no windows. It's one of those rare places where it feels completely wide open. So you're getting a commentary track in your left ear, a commentary track in your right ear, and if you listen carefully enough, you might hear the other local station the other side, and you might hear two totally different games being called as you go along. So I'm sure that was fun with some of the refereeing decisions as well, Skell, that happened yesterday.
Well, there was a particular instance you might remember before half time when there was the Keane Lynch, the shot that was great, superbly saved by Patrick Collins, but that resulting throw in was it was thrown straight to Tommy O'Connell, let's be honest with it, right? But I could hear, let's say, a local radio station, I won't name them, and I thought if they could curse every expletive that they'd say it, they nearly pulled out of their seats because it was some matches like there's the highest roar of the day, for example, right? Well, when O'Connell got that ball, the Limerick crowd went nuts, right? And that was roar number one. And then when Hayes touched it down and got the pint, the Cork crowd went nuts. So it just created for great excitement, and it just showed for me. You look at the Clare Dublin game, I suppose the crowd make a game too. The crowd give players energy. Players thrive off energy. So sometimes we can be guilty of saying we could see a game in front of us and it might be a good game, but the crowd might interact like they did yesterday in the 1A final, and we might actually just discount that game. And so that's why I have to watch the Clare Dublin game again and see, geez, did I think it was as bad a game as I thought it was? And
don't worry, you've already pissed a few people off because you went, that first game was more like junior hurling compared to senior. I'm even cutting intermediate out. That's how big the gap was between the two. I don't think I've logged into Facebook since I went to check a few friends' birthdays, which were coming up in May at any point. But I got a screenshot sent to me of Facebook, and it was basically "fuck Skehill" was roughly the line that was coming through.
You know what I'm trying to say? What I was trying to say was, like, in terms of a contest, it just felt like even the Clare FM boys were calling it a phony match. It was a phony game, and it was a bit of a challenge game feel for a while.
Was that in the first half they were saying that? I'd say when Dublin got back within a few points in the second half, they weren't saying that.
Post game, this is post game.
Really?
Even the fact that Brian Lohan took off Shane O'Donnell and David Fitzgerald, obviously you'd imagine for precautionary reasons, just to keep the health of his team, like that was kind of a signal of intent whereby that he didn't really. I won't say he didn't care about the result, but the result was going to be the result. Nearly like he wanted his team to get into a battle. To get some sort of battle heart and get the game down to the wire in preparation for the games that's coming in a couple of weeks, which are going to be hot and heavy, as we know. But the second game was just electric, and the hitting. I mean, look, I've been to a lot of rugby games, and it's rare I hear the thump the thumping sound of bodies colliding in hurling games. I heard them yesterday. Like, you could hear them in the gantry. Like, there was one particular instance where, I don't know who got thumped by Tim Mahoney. Kyle Hayes thumped. I think it was Shane Barrett. I can't be fully sure. But that just kind of gave a signal of intent to Limerick came to play, particularly with the way that they were aggressively tackling. And I guess I said to you before, the crowd engagement, it makes for, it really does. The saying is, like, you have to be there, it pays to be there, like that. And we believe that's my first hurling game to attend inter-county game since the Ireland final last year.
Right. Okay.
So I haven't been to one in a while. And like, you say to yourself, what are you missing? But Jesus, when you go to a venue that's full of that, with a rapturous crowd, which is now the best rivalry in hurling, I think everyone can agree on that. It's as of right now, that's the best rivalry. It's just electric, and it makes you want to go again. And you'd be happy if they keep playing each other.
Oh, so take up that point, Murph, because I've seen some people trolling each other from a Limerick Cork side over the last 24 hours. Some of the Limerick fans are going, we've had 2 draws and 3 Limerick wins over the last while, and look how comprehensive that Limerick win was in the Munster Championship last year. Is it really a rivalry if Cork aren't beating them? And then Cork people turn around and say, well, yeah, we won a trophy on your own ground last year, and you might well have beaten us handsomely at the start of Munster, and we got revenge. But as Skehill quite rightly pointed out, whatever with this rivalry, Cork can't just look at the 26th of April. They've got Tipperary coming up now as well. Like, their season could unravel in the next few weeks if this goes wrong.
It absolutely could, and stranger things have happened. You can't. Nothing is taken for granted in the Munster Championship. Like we saw Limerick last year going into it looking vulnerable. Like, people were looking at them going, God, even this great Limerick team who were going for a 5 in a row at one stage, looking vulnerable coming into a Munster Championship. So any team that kind of falters a small bit, and see, the thing is about it is, okay, everyone's talking Limerick up at the moment, and Limerick are producing, but Cork also still are still being talked up. I know some people are talking them down as well, saying, well, after the All-Ireland final last year, and there's nearly 2 sides going on with Cork, but they'll always be the favourites going into, except for against Limerick, they'll be the favourites going into most matches because, when they hit form, they've been shooting the lights out, they have huge support behind them, and then when they are going good, they're full of belief as well. So they're there to be taken down, as in Clare are there to take them down, Waterford are there to take them down. Waterford come into under the radar the next time they meet Cork because they were beaten so comprehensively in the league. So that's one where it's like almost like a Dublin Limerick last year, where it's like, will Waterford really step up to them? So Waterford will have a free shot because people won't expect them. Clare coming through 1B, people do an unknown quantity. That's what I'm going to say about Clare. I know the Clare supporters will be saying, look at our forwards. Absolutely. Look at our backs. We're really strong. I get that. And it's not too different from the team that played in 2024. But we haven't seen them tried and tested enough this year to know exactly where they are at the moment. So they'll come in under the radar against Cork. So it's in terms of rivalry, I agree with Skehill. It is 100% the rivalry. But Limerick are in much stronger position. It's an obvious statement at the moment. They're in much the stronger position. Like last week I was saying that Limerick don't need to win this game as much as Cork do, because Cork are now heading into the Munster Championship off the back of 2 losses, with the games coming quicker than Limerick. But Limerick made all the run-ins, and I know we're going to step into talking about the match now, but Limerick looked like the team that needed the victory at the weekend, not Cork. And that was the thing that kind of baffled me from an overall point, because I was going like, after all the talk at the start of the league, no, not to say no one else was building you up, you were building yourselves up. Now here is the chance. And the thing was, there were so many points I think you can point to with Cork in Limerick, in the Limerick match, to say that this was not a performance that backs up a fair bit of the talk that we heard earlier in the league. And like, this is not us trying to turn their words on them. It's the words that they were saying themselves. And it's just the performance didn't match what they've been talking about so far this year.
Yeah, look, a lot of their key players didn't turn up. Like, we can break down to loads of reasons why Limerick got on top. Particularly, we'll talk maybe a bit about their strategy on both sides of the puck out, and particularly the fact that Limerick went manically onto the Cork puck out with loads of success during the game. The reality is that loads of Cork's players didn't turn up. Particularly, the goal was... I will never see a goal gift wrapped in the way it was. You will always say, Skehill, to people when you're training them as kids, whatever you do, never play a flat pass straight across your own goal. I don't know what Dimmer Burns was thinking when he goes to make that pass.
I think what he was trying to do was probably was the right thing to do. I think if you look at where he was backed up in the corner, and where I was as well, down the line, if he poked it down the line, and bear in mind now, there was let's say a red wave down the line, let's say, where I was. So I say he probably looked across and go, no, Nicky had exited the goal, which every goalie does nowadays in every grade. And it was just, I suppose, the execution was all it was. And partly he was thinking, did he even see Brian Hayes?
I wonder about that. Hayes was almost Anna McQuaid normally would be.
Yeah. And I think people can't discount how tricky it can be with Joe. If you're, let's say you're at ground level, okay? You're looking across at that open stand in Limerick, right? I used to call it the terrace, but I know it's an open stand. And Brian Hayes' jersey is there. Like, it could theoretically, conceivably, mix in with the crowd behind him. Do you know what I mean? So it mightn't be that he could have got his distances incorrect, whatever. But just when you watch him from a technical perspective, it looked like he just didn't give enough juice, and he was quite casual, And with that, even if Brian Hayes wasn't standing there, right, that ball wasn't going to Nicky Quaid's hand. It was dropping well short of him. So if he was given it with more conviction and it was more elevation, I'd say, right, Grant, he saw Hayes and he was attempting to get the ball straight to Nicky's hand, but it didn't. It was going to fall flat regardless. And Hayes was kind of in semi-shock. I think. But you have to consider Hayes, what? Is he 6'3", 6'4"? You had probably 30, you had a 35-inch hurley with his full arm extended. You're probably talking about, the best part of 11 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
That's quite elevation to get over. Yeah, which is tricky. So sometimes you're going to be better off just to drill it low past him. But again, that probably will never happen in that man's lifetime again. And I have to give credit to Jeremy Burns. Didn't knock a bit off him. He stood static for a moment, obviously. Brian Hayes probably came out and gave him a little congratulator, thank you. But after that, then Jeremy Burns held his line steadfast. He was excellent. Which is a great sign of a player, a great sign of probably the work they're doing behind the scenes mentally, because that could kill a player. Like, that could really wreck your confidence. And if you make a mistake thereafter, next thing you're in quicksand, Will, and it's hard to get out of it. Whereas he didn't. Like, he won the next puck out that came down top from Cottage, won a break. He let ripped in for Galane's goal on the ground hurling. Do you know what I mean? So there was a bit of frustration about that. And he just parked. So, I don't think we'll see that goal again for a while. That type of goal.
I thought he was excellent. Again, Heggerty played really well. It's just Galan was in a different stratosphere, I think, compared to everyone yesterday. So naturally, he was man of the match. Galan's touch, his turn, and the goal, Murph. Because I saw some people, naturally it gets compared to Bergkamp whenever it's a deft touch when someone is making a turn. But as mentioned by Skehill, this is I'm not going to say it's a hopeful ball. It's a Dermot Burns pull on the ground. Let's just put it forward. And you're probably thinking, if you're a defence, it's like Galan is a long way out from goal here. Like, you get nice touch tight with him, you probably slow him up. At worst, he's going to try and skin you and maybe put one over his shoulder. But Galan's first touch just puts him into such wonderful space. And then he has the agility to fly on past, and then a wonderful finish across goal into the bottom corner. What a goal.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And like, it's the touch, first of all, is the kind of, for me with Galan, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you look at all the rest of the scores from then on, whoever's marking him, and I think they kind of swapped a few times, but whoever's marking him is standing about 6 foot off him, I'd say 2 yards anyway, something to that effect. But they're standing off him because he has this awareness, and it's like literally he just has a choice. If the man is on his back, he'll break that ball away from, or he'll stay outside. He'll just control it and stay outside. If the man stays 2 feet off him, he gets it into his hand, have a look, leans back, and it's that leaning back. No one else can really do it like him, and pops a huge height onto it, but it never affects him. He's very accurate. Other players do that, and they'll put curl on the ball. If you're leaning back and you strike it, you're falling away from goal. The ball will generally curl away from the goal when you're doing it. Now, whether it is or it isn't happening when he's doing it, he knows what he's doing when he's doing it. So if the defender stays up on him, that's what he does. He deflects it away, moves off, and he's deceptively fast. It's another thing we don't talk about with Galan, where he has a great sidestep. Like, how many times in games have we seen him towards the sideline on the 21 and turn back in on the player, and the player is left sitting on his hole? Like, it's just, he does that to players. So then if players are right up on him, they're terrified that that's going to happen to him. So players stand off him. And what does he do? He scores the other 7 points from popping it back over the shoulder. I'm trying to think of any of the scores, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I don't know how many of those points he got inside his man. I think a lot of them were outside, popping him back over the shoulder. So that's where I'm saying the damned if you do, damned if you don't. The goal is created because he knows if the man is on him, I'll break it away and I'll have the pace to beat them. Now, the other thing we're not talking about as well, you mentioned it, Will, is the shot. Like, he was probably between 25 and 30 yards from goal because he's at an angle and he puts it down low into the corner. Like, that's a ridiculous shot as well. When you look at what intercounty goalies are producing these days, look at Ever Quilligan produced a few great saves in the first game. Even look at Patrick Collins, like, Cian Lynch's one, like, they're reflex saves. So the further lads get out, the harder it is. So that just shows you how good of a shot. And then another thing, the belief that he's just going to go, I'm going to go for goal here, as opposed to point. We're in a comfortable position. There's so many parts to pull apart that, on one level, yes, we looks like a genius goal, but looks simplistic in some ways as well. But it was outrageous. And another score I want to pick out while we're talking about it, that looks simple, but I just thought it was absolutely class, was Cathal O'Neill's point in the second half. It put them 3 points up, basically made it 119 to 116. Don't know what minute happened in, but he caught it in front of his man going towards his own goal, which is a very tough thing to do. So he caught it in and around the number 12 position. So Skehill would have been nearly underneath G, but caught it 49th minute and took on the man and soloed down and popped over the bar into the wind. Again, looks like, I'd say maybe it looks kind of like a very simple basic score. Catching the ball in front of your man is harder to do than catching the ball behind your man, because the lad behind you can play you and just spoil you at least. But then the athleticism to take on his man And when you're tired and you're shooting into the wind and you're still a nice distance out and you're towards the sideline popping it over, I thought that was a fantastic score.
It's outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, and it's a score that nearly harps back to the old scores we would have seen. I'm not trying to inject nostalgia into it, but you know the way players in like go back a few years had a bit of freedom down the channels, which we see kind of eaten up now. But that was just Cathal O'Neill pure athleticism. And there was another one I saw put up there today that I think TG Cahir put it up, where Cathal O'Neill had a hurl broke off him during he was driving through on a solo run. Someone broke a hurl off him. I didn't see it happening during the match, but it was put in slow motion on TG Cahir website. And I was like, I didn't even see that during the match. And probably touches back to scale what you were talking about of the physicality, the amount of it that was in the game, that we nearly missed so many moments of it.
Yeah, but the physicality wasn't even pulling and dragging more. Like, some defenders are guilty of that now. There was a lot of jersey pulling, arm tucking. This was just body man-to-man hit. Like, and fairness, there was no head challenge. There was one questionable one. The time Barrett got pulled for the throw. Just before that, Will O'Donoghue, like he could have, a Leicester man would have gone down holding his head, but Will O'Donoghue got chinned on the side of the helmet before that. But I said to you, Leicester man would go down. He didn't go down. He was awesome again yesterday. Like, but there's a few little nuggets, like you said, like the Gillane goal. Nobody has seen it, but he put a spin in it. So the spin, I know exactly what happened. You're coming. You're right. He's going to my left now. That's exactly where he's going. But he put the spin and it went out to in because he's a left-handed striker.
Yes.
So the ball is curling in. Let's say it's just it was awesome. And like you said, I wanted to ask you today because I watched. Obviously the first game, let's say Clare played 2 up top in the first half with the breeze. And Dublin advanced their half-back line out and just allowed, Clare to run straight lines basically into the corners, right? Gillane doesn't really matter. Like, his movement is consistent, okay? So it's like, I noticed as well, when he runs, okay, and a pass, a hand pass or a Limerick puts the ball back on the hurl, that's like a trigger for him to change his run.
Yeah.
For example, if Burns is coming out and he puts the ball back on the hurl, Gillane switches the run the opposite side, because he knows he's getting carried for another couple of seconds, right? And then Burns looks up and he's got separation. So I was saying, from a defender's perspective, if you're at the top of the D, you're marking Aaron Gillane, right? What do you do to him? Because it seems like I've seen this story over and over again. The same with Nicky Spokouts at 10 and 12. You always see Heggerty in space and O'Neill. How does it keep happening? Well, I saw it yesterday. But in Gillane, how is he always in front? How is he always in front? And I want to ask you, as a defender, how would you mark him?
Well, like, part of it is it does come down to a small bit of not like test the water with the referee and the umpires. The umpires might call you, but you'd want, like, there's a huge amount of athleticism would come into it, but you'd want to be checking his runs in terms of Gillane, from marking him before, he cuts left and he cuts right, and he does a seesaw as well, like, because he doesn't mind, like, if he takes the ball on the left side of the field or the right side, so he'll keep cutting. Like you said, if Diarmaid Burns throws it on and he cuts left, the run is nearly gone now until Diarmaid Burns gets it again, so he'll have to cut back. So there's nearly a bit of, if you need to stand on his foot a small bit, if you need to nudge him in the ribs, he'll get annoyed and he'll turn around at you, and the referee might come in and start warning you. But tread that line first to at least spoil him, and it'll go unseen for the most part. And I know some people might go, that's, well, no, it's part of the dark art doing it. But the thing is about him, and it probably goes back as well, this is only, you're not going to get your own way with him because he's very fast. He's extremely fast. And how many times have people actually mentioned that? They don't really mention it a whole lot with Gillane. And he's lightning fast because he doesn't look like it. It's like TJ. It doesn't look like he's traveling fast, but he's traveling fast. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but the thing with Gillane, the other side of it is that the problem we would have had with him in and around, I'd say, was it 2018, whatever year they won, 2018, we played him in Thurles, and himself, Flanagan, and I think it was Mulcahy it was at the time. It wouldn't have been Peter Casey, it was Mulcahy. Their braking was so hard, like they would brake at 100 miles an hour, whereas other forwards would kind of brake at like 50, 60, wait till they see the ball moving and then brake, which a defender likes to do. But those three boys would just brake at 100% speed, and if the ball happened to go down their channel, it went down it. But if it didn't, well, they've now created space for Mulcahy on the other side. So a lot of the braking that they were doing was, I'm going to brake at full speed here. If the ball happens to come, the ball happens to come. But a defender can't read that then. You can't read it because he doesn't even know if the ball is going to come. So you can't, do you know what I mean? You can't run out in front of him now as well. So there's lots of aspects to it. Like the simple answer is that, how do you defend it? Like, it just comes down to a man-on-man situation, and very few defenders can really do it. Very few defenders, and at the moment, probably no defender can probably mark him when he's in that form. That's being honest, and right. It's probably a case of him coming out of that form for a lad to be able to actually mark him because he's going so good. Like,
I want to ask you, so if you're marking him, right? And again, I saw, I don't know who the lads, they tried everything yesterday. They tried to go vertical with him. They tried to go behind him. They tried to go in front of him. They tried to face him. Do you know what I mean? And when they faced him, let's say kind of perpendicular to the pitch length, he would just break off and he'd have 3 steps on you.
Yeah.
They stopped facing him. And then when
Yeah.
he was in front of you, he was checking runs back and forth and putting you in a TV going around in circles. When he
Yeah.
was behind you, when he was in front of you, you know, he breaks like he did for the goal. So I was thinking, is he one of the only forwards that, you know, I'd be careful to put him in this bracket now. Is he the only forward in the country that's kind of technically unmarkable when he's 1-to-1? I've never seen.
Yeah.
The only person I've ever seen that can contain, I won't say contain him, but I think it's true fouling, was Conor Cleary, fouling him, constantly arms round him, constantly arms round him, fouling. That was the size of it. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen very few defenders, I'm sure I'd be checked here now, that can mark him or ever be in front of him, playing from the front. I've never seen it.
Yeah, like his ability to get out in front is outstanding. But you know, it's another part of him as well that probably doesn't get mentioned. And you know, this is not me. Nobody should take this as a negative thing that I'm saying. But like, he'll get in your face, like, and that's not seen really on the telly. We saw some of the promo clips, I think, from the previous Cork Limerick match where they were showing a little bit of the aggro between Cork and Limerick, and you could see Gillane was up in lads' faces. When we played them in 2018, he came onto the field after half time. Or it could have been even extra time. I don't know. I can't remember if I was marking him in that match. I don't think I was. I think I was on Mulcahy. But we would have swapped over at different times. But he came in full of aggro, and sure, we squared up to each other, and he hit the deck straight away. And I was like, I was like, get up, will you, and all this stuff. And I called him something. I can't remember what I called. I jumped back up again and was aggro in my face. And I say this from point of view. I have full respect for the fella. But a defender will question himself then, because he's like, well, if I get a little bit nasty here now, will he hit the deck? And like, you know, and I'm not saying this from point of view of simulation or anything, but the defender is now thinking that if I give anything to the referee here, you know, what will happen? And he's well able to talk to you as well after it. And again, I'm saying all these things. No one should be taking this as a slander point of view. If a forward comes into you and he's all lovely, like, you know, a defender's gone, grand, I'm going to absolutely hop off this fella, you know, whereas Gillane gives it back as much as he takes it, you know. Which, and then, again, I say it. I'm saying it from a respectable point of view. You want all your forwards doing it, but it's another element to him that I just, when I think back, and I didn't mark him that much, but when I did mark him, you know, he's very steely player as well. It's all lovely skills and stuff, but he's full of steel as well.
He's getting all the flowers this Easter weekend. A lot of people say maybe he's the best inside forward of all time. The caveat I'd add to that, scale, it's a huge statement, right? But I've seen some people doing it over the last 24 hours. I think there's few players, though, who are better for a system than Galan has been for this Limerick system. If you consider what he's done over the last 7-8 years, that versatility you've just spoken about, the fact that he can be the front of the spear of their attack, the fact that he will come out deep and have no problem doing that. And we saw the point he scored over on the gantry side that was probably right under you when he flicked it over his shoulder. And at the same time, one that stood out for me was when, again, Burns put really direct ball up to him. Do you remember the second one where he ran in and tried to put the goal in on the near post on Collins?
Yes.
And he just kind of gave the thumbs up to Burns as if to say, by all means, put me in behind every now and then. Give me quick ball and I'll try and spin my marker and go around him. Like, he can do that in so many different ways. And they have had different people that have come in and out of the forward line, and we've spoken about, you know, it was Casey for a while, Mulcahy, might have been Flanagan, the different foils he's had. Now he has O'Brien up there beside him now. The reality is that he continues to be just as effective in this system, even when the people change around him. So whatever about an argument about comparing people across eras and all that type of stuff, I think he has been the perfect forward for this great Limerick team.
He has. And like, he's been, I think across the whole Limerick 1 to 15, he's the only person I can think of that has been left in his specific position where he starts, if you know what I mean. He's never brought out the half forward line. He was never, you know, I would say dropped per se. He's never really taken off. You know what I mean? Like, I can go through all the players, the great players, and they've all been taken off. They've all moved positions. They've all moved lines. But he's the major consistent element. And like, I have to give great credit to the Limerick forwards because I watched them yesterday as a collective, basically off the ball, right? And I was interested with John Kiely when he was shouting in at the players. And I say shouting, obviously, you know, during the morning, let's say, he was mainly focusing on his forwards. It was all towards his forwards. And it wasn't even to do anything technical with the ball, or he'd never say anything about, you know, a wide or whatever. It was all towards turnover, work, run. Do you know what I mean? And creation of space, creation of opportunity for other lads. So, like, the way Gillane operates in the full forward line, he's consistent. I'd love to see a GPS tracker and see what kind of mileage he covers. You would think in the forwards he don't cover a huge amount in the full forward line, but he's back and forth and back and forth. And like I've often said, is you can't mark space in the man, you can only mark one. But he is the type of person, if you try go touch tight, he has you. He'll spin you. If you try mark the space, he'll go the opposite side and score out right. So he's so hard to mark, and he's a superb out ball because he's not restricted by one particular ball in. He can go high, as we've seen in the past. He can go behind you, he can go in front of you, left or right, it don't matter. It don't matter. It just don't matter. And even if you use the sideline as your best friend and use it as an extra defender, it don't matter. He's going to turn and put it out over. And like, it's great that if you look at the way they're being coached, Limerick, certain players have that opportunity and they're allowed to execute. And I've always said Flanagan and Gillane are in the same bracket. That if they get the ball on the 30-yard line at the sideline, they're allowed to shoot. No problem, shoot, because they can do it. There's a reason Jim Burns is always shooting, and maybe not necessarily Will O'Donoghue or Kyle Hayes, because they can do it, so they're promoted to do it by the management team. And so the team themselves are full of complementary players of each other, if that makes sense. So I touched a while ago, Will, about Heggerty and how we've often seen him run out to the 10 wing or the 12 wing. But if you watch it like off camera, and Nicky has the ball in his hand, and I'm just watching the forwards, and he's just going back and forth and back and forth. You can't mark it as a defender. If you sit as a number 7 or a 5 in your wing, he's just going to sprint to the far side and get ahead of the 5 or the 7. So you can't get ahead of him. So the opportunity that's been created by Heggerty, Tom Morrissey in the years previous, so all the forwards, and like it's just been added to now by the likes of English, who I might say is a Rolls-Royce player, Conor O'Neill. And then if things go tight, and Cork are making a comeback, Nicky Quaid, puck the ball down top of Heggerty, let me go up and get it. Conor O'Neill has said, Murphy, let me go up and get it, and I'll get it, and then I'll throw it over the bar. You can't buy that. There's no like value you can put on that, because it is just precious. That you have a person that can do that. When I'm looking at the Cork team to say, right, who now is going to do it here? Who's the Cork man that's going to get this puck out for Collins? There was nobody. Even the movement to say, I was so disappointed in Shane Barrett's performance. I think of all the players I watched yesterday, I was saying, this is prime for him now. Test Will O'Donoghue. Bring him for a spin and see what you can do. And I was just so disappointed. And I was thinking, like, is he a loose game hurler? Do you know what I mean by that? To say, when things get tight and a bit fractious, like, he doesn't seem to thrive. Like, he wants to be thriving opportunity. But to go in and get the ball himself and take it on, I didn't see it. Whereas you see Heggerty is in there, O'Connor, English, they're all in there getting the ball themselves. And now, the Páirc Uí match, when that comes, that probably suit him more because it'd be more spacious. But I was just disappointed from a collective looking at the Cork forwards yesterday. Bar William Buckley, I have to say, I thought he tried fierce hard, even from the tackle. He tried very hard, but the rest of them, I was like, it's not, it's not what we grew accustomed to, like, over the course of last year. And even that, I was going through our analysis, like they were like 9 down, and they got back to 3 and 2, respectively. So they weren't like out of the game, but they weren't hammered. Now the last 4 or 5 minutes, obviously they let 5 in a row go, but it's like, if you're looking for things to fix in terms of Cork, there's a bit to fix now, isn't there? And it's not even tactical. You can't even go onto a ball wall and fix it, if you know what I mean. You can't go into a meeting, you can't go into an analysis meeting and fix it. It's more scar tissue. Does that make sense? It's scar tissue that you have to, like, you have to win. Do you know what I mean? And I read somewhere, someone's going to quote me now, but I think since 2005, they've lost 11 of the 12 national finals.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, the only national final they won, Murph, was last year's league.
League final against Tip, yeah.
Yeah. That was their first trophy in 20 years. Having been defeated, I think, in 10 finals previously.
Jesus.
Yeah, or 9 finals previously. That's a crazy statistic when you think about that. Like, that's a lot of scar tissue. And the best way to remove scar tissue is to rejuvenate the team with younger players who don't have it. And I just don't see it at the moment, because their pivotal players are all up along, 1, 3, 6. Do you get me? Up along the midfield. It's hard. It's hard to, to eradicate a team of that. And like, you can try and instill a steely resolve into your team, like Ben O'Connor, I think, is attempting to do. But ultimately, the team, let's say, the team themselves, if it's part of their DNA to a point, it's very hard to eradicate that. Just like Kiely over the years had the opposite, Murph. Do you know what I mean? He had the opposite, whereby if a young lad comes in, he's coming into a juggernaut here who worked their bollocks off, basically. And are known for being the best working team in the country over a prolonged period of time. So that's the other side of it, whereby someone that comes in, you come in your time, right, and you're adding to what is already a class defense. So you're like you're on high dough. I cannot mess this up. Yeah. My position is gone. Whereas I'm saying Cork.
Yeah, you're not thinking of the pressure in that situation. Like, you
just perform to justify yourself. Like, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I wonder what part of it though, because like when I was just looking at my notes here from the start of the match, like they went 6 points down, and like they were really flat at the start. Like they just only for that goal was handed to them, and not only like that, they just like if they got a point in that situation, it doesn't really change the situation. They're still 5 points down, but getting the goal brought them right back into the match. But it was handed to them. Like I couldn't see where a score was coming from there for a while. Like Limerick could have pushed that out to 9 points. And so there was a flatness straight away, and I was putting a question mark over it. And part of me was wondering, and again, this is pure speculation from outside the camp, was wondering, emotionally, did they get too much up for the game or something? Because there's a double-sided coin. You need balance coming into a match. You want lads up for it, but you don't want them, firing on all cylinders Thursday evening when there's 3 days to go to the match, and suddenly you've invested a huge amount of emotional energy and you focused on the start of that game so much that you almost start to seize up a small bit when the game starts, and you're kind of, because like that, there was lads going trying to rise balls, they couldn't get them up into the hand. Limerick looked a lot more relaxed. They looked like that they were just going, hurling, tackling. I know they was in their own pitch and they had the wind in the first half, all those things, I get it. But their intent and everything that they were doing, like there was another element to it. And in fairness, Limerick were caught once or twice with this as well. But players being caught standing, like feet planted, striking the ball, were getting hooked and blocked. Like that to me said something about a little bit of nerves that, like, you know, we associate players this day and age moving. Like even if you're only moving left and right a couple of yards to get that ball away, but don't get caught standing. So for Cork, for me, in the first, 10 minutes, there was so much of that I said, whatever the preparation was, it took away from the aggression. It took away from going out there saying, yeah, we're going to work. I'm going to get the first ball in my hand. And just a real clarity of thought. I didn't see that clarity of thought. So I'm wondering there, like, what was that? Because it seemed to me that there was something evident. Was it that they heaped pressure on themselves to say, we have to win this match because we're not going to accept defeat from Limerick? Or was it a case that, you came into the match building it up that this is completely do or die, we're going to this place, all this? I was wondering, was the emotion maybe preyed on a small bit too much? Because when I look at it tactically, and it probably goes back to our first point, and maybe feeds into the whole point about Gillane, like their half backline were so far out that I was going, Jesus, that's a nightmare for a full backline, that there's no, it's not even that the half backline are there to protect you the whole time, but if I win the ball, they still have 60 yards to get back to me. Like, as in, there's a long distance there to get back. So a point I thought of as well was when Cork played Galway up in Galway in the first half went up by 7 or 8 points. And a point I mentioned on the pod that week was that if Galway were able to turn that into a 10 or 11, and bear in mind, during that period, they hit 6 or 7 wides. Like, they had the shots and they hit wides. What I said that week, and actually I think it was Morris Brosnan, I think, had made this point, that it was like, what do Cork do if a team goes ahead by 10 or 11 points? But we didn't see anybody really question Cork after that. Whereas Sunday in the league final, I saw this and I went, wait now, Limerick are exploiting them. And the thing is about it now is, as the season goes on, as we get into Championship hurling, it's only more conducive to the full forward line because the ball isn't getting stuck, the ball is going to keep moving, and they'll get the ball into their hand very snappy before a half back line is back. So the two things that I would look at there straight away that I saw at the start of the match for Cork was that the intent, the aggression, it just wasn't there. And then tactically, if you want to look from a physical point of view, their half back line were a nice bit out and leaving the ideal conditions for the likes of Galan or Shane O'Brien or whoever. I know Shane O'Brien came up only, not to say only with a point, but Galan obviously thrived in that scenario. So there was two things for me that straight away I went, this is not a great situation or a great platform to go and win this match from.
Yeah, and look, again, Cork have a lot to solve, I think. A lot of their fans weren't particularly happy with the way they played in the Offaly game either, right at the end, but you kind of wrote that off because you said, look, this is a case of job done. They now go to Limerick, and the real test pre-Munster Championship is going to be what type of performance they put in the league final. Then a lot of the big players didn't show up yesterday, realistically. One of the plus points, I guess, for Cork, though, Skehill, might be Joyce at 3. Does he now become their fullback? If this is going to be a case of both the Downies are going to be in the half-back line this year, is Joyce now the settled fullback for Championship?
Well, he performed admirably. Despite what went on in the Limerick 440 yesterday, I thought he performed admirably. He did all he could, in fairness. Like, all you would expect a man to do, he did, to be fair. I just wonder about the two Downies in the half-back line. I'm not fully sold myself, to be honest. I'm not fully sold. Yeah. I'm not trying to be disparaging towards them. I'm not trying to be ignorant, but like, I just don't feel like they have enough of, a launch pad with the two of them together. I think one needs to be behind the other. Like, at least I think, but again, that's a different matter. To go back to your question, I think Joyce was very good. But like, Jesus, you're on about the positives. You asked the question there, well, let's say, Cork have a bit to fix. They need to fix their puck outlets. That's a big issue. Their puck outlet is a big issue. I think, Joe, when the forwards get Unsung and get ball in their hands, they can do an awful lot of damage, to say. But when the ball goes dead and Cork are tasked with either working through a defence or winning primary ball up in the forwards, it's not sitting well. And for reasons I don't know, when I watched it again today, I can't fathom why they don't go to the right side of the pitch. As Collins is looking down, why he doesn't go to the right, I don't understand what the issue is. I don't know, is it clientele that's there, or is it a tactical situation? Because remember, we made note last year of a lot of the goals they were getting was on the left wing. As Collins is facing, a lot of them were on the left wing where they kind of clear out that space and they were attacking from that side. But an awful lot of the puck outs went down that side and they just couldn't win a primary ball to save their lives yesterday. That's an issue for me. You see, in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it's fine. because you might get away with it in terms of the space is so vast that you can find pockets of space to put the ball into for grass. But like when you go to these venues around Munster where there's some are slightly tighter than others, and like Limerick is not a huge pitch by any means. It's not Croke Park size, you could say. Someone's going to tell me it is now. We're back to this debate again.
Don't worry, someone's already out marking it with a wheel at the moment just to double check you. So go on.
But we touched this before. Like some pitches feel tighter than others. Okay, so I think for Cork to move forward is their puck out, and what brought them success against Limerick in years previous was doing that long puck out and then just taking a chance. Just taking a chance. But Limerick got loads of bodies in such perfect positions, like they were perfectly coached. Whereby Limerick were their first arrival, but they had like if you can picture a ball is landing on, let's say 6, right? And then if you can picture an arc from 5, 8, 9 back to 7, you with me? Limerick had that kind of zone covered. So they were depending on completely their half-back line, keeping the ball in front. Do not let it over your head. Don't let it pass you. And if you don't let it pass you and you keep it in front, the rest of the boys will come in and mop it up. And to watch Lynch and English get in there, boom, so fast on the break. Cork had none of that kind of, surprise element of the ball. And look, I think, Ben O'Connor can touch on all the technical elements that he wants, in open play. But he has to fix the dead ball. Fix the puck out.
Well, like Gaelic coach did the stats on the puck out, just looking at the Cork one here. So by comparison, when Limerick went long, and you mentioned when Nicky puts the ball into his hand, generally he'll find one of the players further up the pitch. He makes 21 out of 27, so 78%. His overall puck out range is 80%. He didn't put any short ones wrong. So that's an excellent retention rate. Limerick took 13-1 off their own puck out, so basically dominated their own puck out. Cork, it's a totally different story. When they went long, which they were forced to do because of the way that Limerick were swarming up on them. So the short puck out often went right, but the second possession didn't afterwards. Limerick got the press on pretty much straight away. When Collins was forced to go a bit longer, and remember they got Hay against him a couple of years ago when he decided to just bomb the ball forward, continuing against Limerick. They won 15 out of 26, and of those Limerick also won 8 breaks. So, like, they were eating alive, Murph, when it came to their own puck out. Like, when Cork were putting out there, they were basically giving the ball back to Limerick continually.
Yeah, they were, and I'm wondering what that comes back to in terms of, like you said, in some cases or a lot of cases with the sharp puck out, the first lad gets it, but the first lad was generally in the full back line. Like I do remember that, and it was options after that. But I think it was the fact as well that Limerick did serious swarming. Like there's so many instances, particularly early in the match, where I can think of frees there that they won free in situations where they swarmed. Like Rob Downey, I think, was swarmed at one stage. Yeah. I remember Kieran Joyce coming out with the ball. I think he got it away, but he was swarmed. The next man was swarmed. So a lot of it, I think, was just, again, maybe just go back to the intent and the clarity of thought from the Limerick lads. The Limerick lads knew, and if you looked at the 6 forwards, there was an end view there at one stage. The 6 forwards do that great thing that you should, every club player in the country as a forward should be doing it, is hurl up when the keeper's taking a puck out. You might feel like a bit of a spade saying, I was going to drive it long anyway. Put the hurl up and block out, make them think twice. It does put lads off. But I think lads underestimate it. And I looked at it and I was like, lads look at Limerick and they talk about all this, popping the ball through the hands, the speed, the power and all this stuff. And I'm looking at them then going, yeah, but they're doing the simple things so well. They're doing that. And if they give the short puck out, they all push up and they take responsibility for their own man. But then... Yeah. It's almost like they turn it into a cul-de-sac then. So I'm now up on my own man. Where's he going next, right? If he goes, let's say, for example, I'm at centre forward and I'm marking Rob Downey. He's not going to Rob Downey. He's popping the ball straight back across to Kieran Joyce. I might leave Rob Downey and go straight in now. And Adam English is going to step up towards Rob Downey. They were doing great things like that where that's going to get you in a chokehold. And then the other side is that when some teams get lured into this as well, you do the sharp puck out to the cornerback. Cornerback has no options and then strikes it. But wouldn't, into the wind as well. You're not going to get it as far as the keeper would have got it in the first place, and you're landing it down on the back of Kyle Hayes, on top of Will O'Donoghue, on top of Jim Burns, whoever. And we saw Kyle Hayes as well going up competing. The ball breaks down and he's down on top of it straight away and running. So Limerick were just going, we'll compete for this ball wherever. Whereas almost like the conditions needed to be right for Cork. They needed the perfect ball. If you look at other examples of a situation, the goal that Galan got, Dermot Burns runs in and pulls on it. He pulls on it because he knows if he goes to rise it, in a best case scenario, he doesn't go out over the sideline, but he's now into a ruck, or not into a ruck, but he's into a situation where he's going to be swarmed and can't strike it anyway. So he might as well pull. But I was looking and I was thinking that, well, if the Cork half backline are pushing up so far there, they're required to win this ball. Not necessarily a half backline, but the midfield and half backline as a unit, or half forwards, have to win this ball because you're now committing bodies to the area. If that ball leaves that area, if Limerick just pull on it like Dermot Burns did, the space is now in front of the full forward line again. So there was kind of this betwixt and between thing with Cork, whereby sort of committing lads to play to spaces, but then not winning that primary possession. So now they've a load of people committed to a space, but they're not winning the possession. So now there's open space at the other side, which Limerick exploit. So there was this pull and drag type situation or a push pull situation happening. Now the other thing to give them credit for, and because it's not to break them down altogether, but there was at different stages serious intent in tackling. Like they did work really hard at other stages, came into it in the second half, and to their credit, came back at Limerick and brought it back to a one-score game, and it became very cagey. Like that was brilliant. But I think the one thing that, if you look at it, they went 6 points down straight away. They lost the game by 6 points. I know it's not straight away translatable that it commutes like that, because Limerick managed the game and Limerick will see out the game. But nonetheless, if you're looking for okay, where do you win this game? Look at them 6 points at the start. You should not be letting Limerick get a 6 point lead in you before you lay a glove on them. And then look at the far end. Then they win by 6 points. Like there's automatically a 10 minutes where you go, how could we possibly win this game? Improve that 10 minutes, and you've now taken a big bite out of potentially beating Limerick. I know people will get into it, and I completely agree. There's nuances in that whereby, well, Limerick will approach the match differently, even if they don't go ahead. Of course, I get that. But in very broad and basic terms, you know, you can overcomplicate this at times. For me, the intent just wasn't there at the start. And once that platform was created, although you're coming back at Limerick, Limerick are still the lads who arrived on the day with the intent, with the hunger to go and win that match. And I think anytime Cork were going to the well after that, Limerick had an answer. So for me, it was a case you could have played 80 or 90 minutes in that game and Limerick were still going to win it, because they just had the guts and they had the work rate, they had all that. And for me, the last point I'm making it, for Cork going into the Munster Championship now, you have to lean into that part, and you should nearly take it as an insult. You should take offence to yourself to say that, you know, for my little patch, and a player I'll give credit to, I thought Tommy O'Connell worked really hard. I thought he was just making runs. And do you know what? He had the hunger of a player. I thought that he hasn't been a regular over the last couple of years. I watched him in the All-Ireland final last year be called down a few times and be sent back up to the stand, and eventually he came on, but sure, it was a little too late at that stage. He's playing with a bit of hunger and a bit of drive, and we saw it with the throw in, and we saw him going up and giving the ball to Hayes. If a few more players had that, and had that intent and had that hunger and that fight, like Cork, they have work to do, but they're not a million miles away either. Like I'm not, you know, I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater here either. They're not too far off either. They like that.
I think I gotta keep that one more.
A few things to pick out of that. First of all, ground hurling is back, baby. When we talk about Dermot Burns pulling on the ball and it's setting up a goal directly. Fergal Whiteley again, similarly. Most players would have picked that up. He decides I'm just going to lash it past Quilligan, and it was very, very effective indeed.
Will, not to cut across yet, I'll let you. Rob Downey went to rise the ball for the ball that was almost a goal. Do you know that one where Rob Downey came out to rise it? Coleman did the right thing. He just threw a foot over it because he didn't know who was coming. But I looked at Rob Downey going, rising him, going, lad, swing. Like you're Rory McIlroy out. The first hole next week. You're sending that ball up into JP McManus's lap. That's where you're going. So, sorry, Will.
No, that's okay. My mind was actually going towards the disallowed goal, Skehill, when it came to it. So there's O'Connell's run put it into my mind, because a lot happens here. Firstly, the advantage rule is given. There's a wonderful save, which you've already mentioned, that happens from Keane Lynch. The advantage happens, the ball gets bundled into the net. As far as Limerick are concerned, there's no foul. As far as they're concerned, the ball has just ended up in there. Somehow, it has managed to get over the line. The whistle blows, and they checked this on League Sunday last night as well. The whistle was blown basically at the point that the ball had gone over the line. It wasn't blown beforehand. And 5 seconds is kind of the period that you're allowed to give before you come back. So in all likelihood, the goal should have been given. And then after that, we get a few different things. O'Connell, the aforementioned, decides to have a bit of a puck at Adam English. He hits the ground. For my money, without digging into this too much, English goes down way too soft and stays down for way too long. Don't like to see that. I do really like Adam English, the hurler, but I think he went down and stayed down for too long. They both got booked, which is the old classic 2 yellows. And then, like, the referee does the most classy thing possible, which is he tries to run away from the ruck of the amount of players that have come together, and he actually throws the ball directly to O'Connell. It was almost like an assist.
Like an assist, yeah. When you consider how the ball where it ended up for finishing to go dead again and jump over the bar for Cork, I think
it was a literal 4-point swing. You had Limerick people going crazy about the fact the goal hadn't been given. Well, and at the far end, you have a guy just running away with the ball.
I did say in a members pod a couple of weeks ago, we need to introduce cannons that just fire a random ball.
Yes.
Here we are again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I told you the canon is the way
It wasn't as mad as an
No.
idea as we thought it was at the time.
Do you know what, Murph? Let's say if you ever watched an I have the under 7 camogies and Cappy, and if they with a Shamal's right where they're all burn the ball, I just pick it up and I throw it. Somewhere else, just pick it up and throw it somewhere else right now. Off you go. And they're like cheap chasers. But yesterday, I'm trying to put myself in Shane Hines' position, particularly for that goal incident. And if you're at ground level, can you see the ball where it is? No, nobody can see that ball. So the ball travels away from him, the far side of all the bodies into the goal. So I think we have to be, a touch fair and be practical in our assessment, because if he's the other side and can see the ball, grand, but he's not. He's behind the ball, nobody can see it.
Yeah.
It just ends up in the net, right? So I think probably he made probably what I think was the correct decision from his position at the time. So I'm not going to badger him about that whatsoever. The throw in. I was kind of in shock. I was like,
that sound says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a nondescript sound there.
Yeah, Lord God. And like the Limerick people went fucking nuts. I mean, Jesus, I thought they were going to lynch him. Do you know what I mean? Probably should have held the ball, right? But they have to, go back into Shane Hines' position now. Right? You're surrounded by bodies. You keep telling everyone to go back 15 yards. Nobody goes back 15 yards.
Yeah.
Nobody goes back, right?
No.
I've seen referees get hit from the throw in and stay across the ankles because they're trying to get, move out of the way. I can see why he's backing up. Just get the ball and play. If he stood there now, right, and told everyone to go back 15 yards and didn't start the game, you'd have the crowd in his back immediately. They'll be on him straight away. Get it going, get it moving. But the players won't listen, so he fires it in. And I just think he's the victim of circumstance. O'Connell got there first. Do you know what I mean? O'Connell got there first. But can you imagine if was it English that was one for the throw in? If he got there first, where the throw in happened, oh Jesus, that would be crazy. Yeah. Maybe like an AFL job, throw up in the air. Do you know what I mean?
You're getting a definite rook there, aren't you?
Yeah.
But if you start to drill and train, Murph, if you start to drill and train, right, it's rare you throw the ball between two people in the ground. It's usually fired up in the air. Because
the purpose is just get it going again. Whereas if you flung it back down there in front of 20 lads, sure, it's just going to turn into WrestleMania. That's how it's going to turn into. So you throw it off over the shoulder.
Can I ask you a question as well? Another one, Murph, right?
Yeah.
The one where I was on, just after where I don't know who got the head challenge and Barrett is breaking through with the hand pass. That was a throw.
That was a throw.
Was the throw. It was a throw. And I know O'Connor can throw digs all he wants to say, but that was the throw.
So the one that Barrett popped it, was that the one?
Yeah, and it's
Barrett
clear goal chance.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
The Cork crowd get ferociously excited. He calls it back. The place erupts on both sides, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was the throw.
Do you know what I'd say on that now? And I say as well to add in, I was thinking about this today. I would say, right, 100%, all right, my main argument here is that was a throw. But I would say that Shane Barrett got about 4 millimeters of separation between it. And I'd say for Shane Barrett, it felt like he did actually pop it. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, because Shane Barrett turned around and went, that was, I didn't throw it. Now, maybe he didn't. Maybe he did just throw it. And he was just kind of, trying to put pressure on the referee. But part of me thought as well is that Shane Barrett isn't looking. He doesn't know what it looks like. And it has to be definite separation. So for us, I think we all agree that was a throw. Yep. But for Shane Barrett, there's a part there where maybe he did get very marginal separation in the speed of the moment. It doesn't quantify that it's not a free. But I can see where Shane Barrett was protesting, but not the supporters. The supporters, that was all emotion. Do you know? The one thing with hand pass I'd say was that Tim O'Mahony got blown for a hand pass over the head. Do you know that one? Who I'd actually classify that as the Will O'Donoghue hand pass. Will O'Donoghue trademarked that. Barry Nash did the same thing to give it back to Dermot Burns when Dermot Burns gave it to Brian Hayes for the goal. And Barry Nash wasn't blown. And it was the exact same because what's his name? Tim O'Mahony actually did get separation. Like that, you're still allowed hand pass like that, is it? Or is it the overhead not allowed?
Sure,
You're allowed, yeah.
Well, as long as there's separation, you can.
As long as there's separation, because I question myself, but when I looked at it, even in normal time, Tim O'Mahony actually did. Now, the thing is, I'll say with that is, there's going to be human error here, so grand, fine. But funnily enough, if you blew Barry Nash, Brian Hayes wouldn't have got the goal. So, but Barry Nash gets away with one there as well. So I think there definitely was, and again, I'm not getting on Shane Hines' back here. There was one or two bits, certainly, but this match was already primed in terms of the fans were red hot coming into this game. Limerick and Cork fans were red hot. So any decision is going to be absolutely fought to the last. Yeah.
Another one, Skehill, you mentioned him already. Geralt Heggerty. One of his better performances of recent times. I thought he was really good yesterday. I
think personally speaking, it's his best performance over the last 2 years. Like obviously we judge him by his hurling of the year performances like that he had a couple of years ago.
100%. All-Ireland final man who turns up, all that type of stuff.
Class. Yeah, that's kind of the pinnacle of his career. That's the best he'd ever perform. It's hard to see him ever get back to that level because that's levels you only get for a very short period of your career. But what he did yesterday was exemplary. And even with it, like, he still could have been better. Do you know what I mean? In terms of some of his decision making with regards to carrying the ball forward, he should just shoot. I think he was trying to try and get goals as opposed to just take the points. Where but he's the kind of player that I'd love to have him as a goalie. I'd love to have him because he offers so much as an outball. And like everyone, the critic would look at the goalkeeper and say about the puck out. It's the puck out. And come here, don't get me wrong. There'll be technical elements where you question goalies, but when you have a forward offering the kind of space that Geralt Heggerty offers, it creates so much platform for your team. So much platform for your team. And then when he decides to go static and says, you know what, throw the ball down top of me here, it'll be all fine. I'll go up a bit like Dan the Man Shanahan's side kind of back in the day. But like if Limerick are going to go forward, they need him to be winning primary ball the way he is. If Limerick are a much different team, a lot of the teams are the same when they don't have a primary ball winner. Like if Tip didn't have Jake Morris last year, Tip to win the Ireland. That's a fact. That's 100% fact.
Yeah, if
they didn't have Jake Morris making those gut-wrenching runs across the pitch from the 10 to 12 wing or vice versa, they don't win. Not a notion they don't win. And just like that, I just think Cork, when I watched their forwards yesterday, were so static. The same with Dublin, from the dead ball, static. And if you don't get that kind of offering from your forwards, you're not going to get the platform because every team will get tight in you. And they'll mark your space and they'll mark your avenues, right? So that means you have to just pull them out of it. And the only way you do it is hard runs into space. And like you said, Murph, about Gillane, you mightn't get the ball. You might make, like Heggerty made plenty runs yesterday. Plenty, and didn't get the ball. But he brought the Cork defenders with him and it opened opportunity for somebody else. The kind of work that we would associate with Geralt Heggerty is always with the ball in hand. That's what the public will. But I associate a lot of his efforts with the ball out of hand. That's why I put such value. I spoke a lot about Jake Morris last year, probably continue to this year. But that person in the Cork team at the minute, who's that gut-wrenching person that's running back and forth to create opportunity when Collins needs an out? I didn't see it yesterday. And Collins, some of his execution of the puck outs, particularly in the first half, against the Breeze, which was stronger than most people thought, actually, wasn't hectic. I thought he put some of his lads, particularly his halfback, under pressure with chancy puck outs against the Breeze. But again, in the same breath, he didn't get the offering up front. Just didn't get it. No one gave it to him. And normally you say that's Seamus Hannity, but he just didn't. It wasn't there yesterday. Like the likes of Burns and Hayes were allowed to stay in their positions. They weren't even pulled forward or pulled back. I don't know who wasn't pulled out of six. It was kind of a bit. I don't know. It's hard to explain what the word is. I wouldn't use the word lethargic, but it was very bland. You know what I mean? There was no extravagant thinking, or even just work ethic from the forwards to do that. And again, you're not going to win games unless you just work as hard without the ball as you do when you have it.
No, for sure. So Marty was mentioned in the highlights last night. It was 13 of the 15 from the Munster final that started for Limerick. The two players were missing. Dan Morrissey, who was injured, was on the bench, and Tom Morrissey still to come back in. We got Darragh Donovan coming on. Peter Casey came on during the game as well, so the two of them were back on the bench. Limerick are basically close to full tilt now, Murph. John Kiely was saying that afterwards. It's funny when he goes, one of the big positives, no injuries picked up today, and his panel are almost back. I don't know how far Tom Morrissey is away, but probably can't be too far away. Aidan O'Connor's been playing class anyway, so if that's the one change they need to make, and if it's a case of whether it's Mike Casey or Dan Morrissey, these are kind of small changes to be made. But the reality is most of the band are now ready to go, and they're coming flying in with a week break at the start of Munster. I'll ask you about Cork in a second. But for you, are Limerick now the team to beat? If we were power ranking the teams right now, are Limerick top of the tree going into the All-Ireland series in the provincials?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to be. They have to be from the point of view they have 6 wins on the trot. I think I'm correct in saying that after they lost to Waterford last, 6 wins on the trot, and they've been extremely convincing. When they played the All-Ireland champions on a dirty enough night down in Thurles, they were absolutely outstanding. They've beaten the finalists from last year twice, and the team that bet them in the Munster final last year. So, they're not racking up any skeletons in the closet there. We mentioned there about Cork saying, okay, they've now lost to Limerick twice, and are they an unknown quantity going into the Munster Championship? Are they there for taking? We don't have those questions with Limerick. And you're even looking at it as well, I didn't notice Darragh Donovan come on yesterday. Whereas with other teams, you're looking to see who are they going to bring on, who are they going to inject. They bring on him. They bring on, I think Ethan Hurley came on. They were just popping lads in there, and you're going, Jesus, this is this is some panel, and they're just purring, and like that, not carrying any injuries, not kind of any question marks. And we've watched them win All Irelands without superstar players, so they have to be. And I know people want to make arguments for their own counties. you can make them all you want, but like when you're looking at the basic facts of where each team is at, now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate into a foregone All-Ireland. Of course not. But when we're looking at pole positions and teams having to do a bit of work, Limerick have the least amount of work to do at the moment. And it looks like there's a spring back in their step. You know, they really look like, even celebrating after the game, final whistle happens, you see Geralt Heggerty going over to Cian Lynch and these boys, and they were all just celebrating. And I don't think it was celebrating necessarily a league final win. It was celebrating, you know, job well done. We came to win a match. We won the match, and now we'll focus on the next match. And just again, this whole clarity of thought with them again, I think I've said it 10 times tonight, where it was just a case of, I know Cork had said we want to win every match and we're going to win every match. Maybe they've put a bit of too much pressure on themselves in doing that, where Limerick are saying we want to win the next match. That seems to be their mantra at the moment. And going back to Geralt Heggerty, two of the things that actually impressed me, two of the bits of skill that impressed me with him over the weekend. One was for Aaron Galan's, could have been his first point. Heggerty was running flat out towards the far sideline, flat run at the far sideline when he catches the puck out from Nicky Quaid, about, I'd say if it's even 10 yards from the sideline, and he manages to stop dead before he goes out over the sideline. There's incredible strength there. Like, Heggerty is surely 95 kg, 90, 95. He's a big man.
95 all day.
Do you know?
He's 100 actually.
I didn't want to be hard on him the full ton, but like, as in terms of he's a big man, and he's all muscle. But anyway, I would like for him to stop at full speed and catch that ball and turn back around, like the physicality to do that. I know people might say, so what? That's great skill to be able to do that. The ball he caught at the end line where he got the point as well in the second half, I think it might have been the last 5 minutes. That ball where he just kind of wheels away, catching it, bouncing up to him, that was savage skill as well. And it just struck me that there were so many bits of what might appear to be simple skill, and I point back to like Cathal O'Neill's point in that during the game, but I was looking at it going, at full speed, that is some skill to be doing. So to answer your first question, Will, yeah, they're in pole position, they're flying it. But I suppose want to put my 2 cents in there about Heggerty, because I was really impressed. It nearly feels boring sometimes. We've spoke about him so many times in the past, and it nearly feels like sometimes we spoke about him for like the controversial incidents that sometimes weren't his fault that he was a part of, and we get roped up into speaking about them, and we forget about talking about the skill of Heggerty. But like, he was a monster again at the weekend. Yeah,
he's held to a ridiculously high standard because of what he's achieved before, and therefore I think on this pod even we've held him to a very, 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 very high standard over the last few years as a result as well. That brings me on very nicely to the fact we've just power ranked Limerick at the top, because Skehill was nodding along when Murph was saying that. The power rankings return in 2 weeks' time, so Tuesday 2 weeks. Basically, I think what we're going to do is, again, a format to be entirely determined. But I'm going to do the hurling power rankings, so I think it'll be after the first round of the provincials. And then Tommy Rooney is going to do the football after we've had a couple of rounds of the football provincials. Michael McCarthy is going to be hosting, and we will do a full run-through. And you can complain about the fact that I've put Galway at 5, why are Tip not at 4, why are Clare at 6. I'm anticipating all this in advance. So get it ready and throw as many bombs as you want on tomorrow, 2 weeks, when we get that going. Also, nicely brought up by Tom Clancy, who's a journalist based primarily at Limerick. He says a couple of nice little things that happened yesterday. Aidan O'Connor, his dad with Joe, was captain in 1992, which is the last time that Limerick won the league in the Gaelic Grounds. And also Rory Hayes of Clare is the grandnephew of the great Tom Ryan of Limerick, who was their manager in the 1990s as well. And of course Rory getting his hand on a 1B medal yesterday as well. So 2 nice little nuggets there to happen at the Gaelic Grounds. I didn't even know the Gaelic Grounds was 100 until they played the little old schooly video on League Sunday last night. It was one of those that I hadn't noticed during the week, and then for some bizarre reason all the clips are from 2026 with sepia over the front of them. It was kind of like, show me some of the old clips, show me 100 years ago. But anyway, 100 years of that, 100 years of the league, and Centenary League title won by Limerick. So Garda Tom, what was his feeling, Skehill? You met him after the game. What was his feeling about Dublin's performance? Because I'm sure he's going to complain that no matter what I say, he's going to say I've written Dublin off for the year. So go on.
Well, now that you say Garda, I have to put a little nugget before I start. Well, I have to thank the guards at Ivan's Cross. Oh. Because I was kind of slightly behind with the traffic. I didn't anticipate the traffic would be as bad at the time I was arriving. And I went down a lane.
Sold out game at the Gaelic Grounds.
I was only going to say sold out Gaelic Grounds. There's a lot of traffic.
I went down a lane where I shouldn't have gone. And all the guards were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I said, this is my first time here. And he goes, I know who you are. It's not your first time here.
It's Bastian Schweinsteiger. What's going on? As someone tried to claim on Twitter last night. He's Schweinsteiger. He's not Skehill.
Yeah, so I was getting into Dunn's doors and the car park, so they let me in. So that was the first thing. But Garda Tom, Gareth Tom was disappointed. He was very disappointed because he thought that there was going to be a comeback on there. And he got even more disappointed when I told him what the players that Clare didn't have on the pitch for a finish. Like for 20 minutes, Clare didn't have Tony Kelly, Dave McInerney, Adam Hogan, Dave Fitzgerald, Mark Rogers, Shane O'Donnell, didn't have all them players on the pitch. And I said that was the perfect opportunity for Dublin to kind of seize their opportunity and get a victory. So when I said that to him, he was going to go, geez, I thought we're only kind of 3 points, worse off than Clare, but the gap was probably considerably more, to be fair. Just from a technical perspective, I thought Dublin looked fit, they looked strong. I was disappointed with their technical execution yesterday. When they're trying to build out from the back, something was happening, like it was a miss pickup. It was a drop ball. Just the basic execution, I would always say, the 4 elements, right? If you can catch the ball, if you can rise the ball, and you might say this is very, very basic. It is though, right? If you can catch the ball 100%, rise the ball 100%, pass the ball to hand, right? Do you know what I mean? Which you say, and strike the ball to hand. Those 4 elements, you will exit a defence very fast. You'll exit your defence, no problem. If you can't do that, you're in trouble. And it seemed like yesterday that they were trying to do the right things, with using the ball.
Yeah.
But their execution was letting them down, in fairness. Yeah? And just that degree of lethality that Clare had in the full forward line was awesome yesterday. I think there was like 15 minutes gone, Will, and they had scored like, what was it, 2-6 or 2-7, something like that. Yeah. Some crazy stat. But again, you essentially a Dublin half back then, right? If the full forward line are making such change here and they're getting such, reward, sit back. Sit back, like, especially playing against the breeze. Just, I always say, close shop for a couple of minutes and reset. You don't have to sit back for the rest of the half, but just make Clare change their tactic. Make them stop hitting the ball in the wings. Make them slow it down a touching, right? And then you can kind of advance again if you want to. But if you want to make a team shoot, make them shoot from 50, 60, 100 yards. Don't let them shoot from 30. Yeah. Especially when they've got speedsters inside. So I was surprised by like Crummy centre back. I was surprised he wasn't, trying to set his stall at 6. And like, don't know who in Burke in midfield are 2 experienced campaigners too. You know what I'm saying? Like, get your halfback line set. There's too much change we knocked over us here with the Clare forward line. Set it for 5 minutes and then reset again. Move forward again. And that just didn't happen. But again, they came out a different team in the second half. Obviously because that platform wasn't there for Clare being against the breeze. And then Clare to dig in. And that's why I was laughing to you. Like at half time I was saying, I'm not surprised if Lohan takes off O'Donnell and Fitzgerald just to make this a battle. I'm not surprised whatsoever. Because I think they haven't had a battle since last year's championship, to be fair. And it was a battle per se. And what I was saying after the game about being senior versus junior, it wasn't the standard of players. It was just the game itself. It was kind of people were waiting for the game to finish. That kind of way? Yeah. It was just kind of petering out. And there was elements and moments of excitement, but it didn't have the aggression or the intent from both teams. The real aggressive intent because, I know it's the 1B title, but it's not a national title in the grand scheme of things. We know that ourselves, lads. It's not. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? For those 2 teams, they won't class that as a national title. That won't go on their record books as something to be saying. They're league winners. It's not. Limerick are the league winners, and that's it, right? So I can see where, there was I don't want to say shadow boxing, but kind of they were in gear 6. There was nobody in gear 10. Simple as that,
Look, there's always an element in 1B as well where the teams are promoted and that was their goal. It's different than going for the silverware. So you've already been promoted. You'd like to get a nice workout before you go to the provincials, but it wasn't the be all and end all in terms of how they presented themselves on Sunday afternoon. You're already there.
No, but Brian Lohan, I think Brian Lohan would have loved to have said what John Kiely said after the game. Brian Lohan would have loved to have said we got away with no injuries. But the fact of the matter, he didn't. Yeah. So I think we're hearing Adam Hogan's a hand injury. Tony Kelly looked nimble enough yesterday. Even though he was in plain clothes, he looked like nimble enough. So I'm not sure what that's just a resting element or is he carrying a bit of a knock. McInerney, I think, has got a back issue, like nearly into a sciatica. He's in a bit of trouble. So that could be a long-lasting situation. Rogers didn't look too bad as he's coming off. He looked a bit sheepish, right?
But he seemed to be okay on the TV. I think he was saying it was mainly a precaution, but yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look to be in excruciating pain. You can tell, like, with the way a man comes off. So you'd be hoping from a clear perspective of the injury front that they get a clean bill of health. But who knows? And like, as well as that, I thought, when the team follows, like maybe it's a ticket situation, but the crowd weren't hectic there. Like the Dublin support was very bad.
Yeah.
And I know it's a bit to travel. I get that.
I don't mean to defend him here, but there was no trains either on Easter Sunday, which probably didn't help if you're a Dublin supporter. There are factors there.
I get all that. I do, and I appreciate that. It's just it's tough on the team. That's all I'm saying. It's tough on the team. I know. I just said it's not really a national title. You know what I mean? There's not a huge amount of the line, but still, like. There should have been, you'd imagine, 5,000 or 6,000 Dublin people at the game. Yeah. Yeah, so there's 500 to be as much, I imagine.
Yeah. Max, they should be bringing a few thousand to Tullamore on Saturday week. That's Like, such a big game for them. I'm not going to say it's season defining, but if they're going to get to a Leinster final, and I think this is the standard we should be judging Dublin by, if they're going to go, they have to clean out the points early doors and then put it up to Galway and Kilkenny if they're going to get to a final. So that's a huge match for them on Saturday week. I also hold them by a standard of where they got to last year, Murph, right? And one thing that kind of jumped to mind when I was watching that first half, and I agree with Skehill, Clare's forwards were excellent. And again, O'Donnell was just orchestrating things throughout that first half as well. I do wonder if at some point that Neil O'Callaghan needs to maybe get to a point where they're a little bit more practical, though. Because I think in the All-Ireland semi-final last year where Cork were allowed to run at them a bit too easily. And again, similarly, when Clare had the wind, they got way too much change from the ball that was going in. I'm not necessarily playing a sweeper. I know they didn't play a sweeper yesterday. Clare kind of did in the second half. They were a bit more practical. I just wonder, do Dublin maybe need a bit of double cover and to respect someone like O'Donnell by putting a second guy around him rather than trying to hurl 15 on 15 and hurl defensively man on man?
Yeah, you definitely, you need to acknowledge in a situation like that where, that gale force wind won't be really there for the next, okay, maybe a bit dramatic to say gale force wind, but it was a very strong wind that would decide what you're going to do, during the course of a game. And I was very surprised with that as well, whereby, if we were going to hurl a match tomorrow with the club and we were playing into a gale force wind like that, I'd be saying, right, lads, if we're playing against the wind, sit a small bit, step off, 10 metres or so, and just provide that element of security. And as well, what it doubles up at as well is that not only can you secure the full back line a bit more, but if and when you turn over that ball, you now have an abundance of players who have now stepped 10 or 15 metres back the field that instead of looking up into the wind, trying to drive the ball into the full forward line, you now have a network of lads that you can start popping the ball out to. But similarly to Cork, they were just a little bit too far up the field, and you're going, lads, Shane O'Donnell's inside there. I know he hasn't hurled all year, but he could light this place up if you don't get back there. Yeah. And even though they got the warnings, these are things that teams need to be able to do as well in the heat of battle. You need to understand these things that, if things are going a little bit awry, we sit back a small bit instead of waiting for half time. Because sometimes when you get in at half time, it's a bridge too far at that stage then, because you're after there's a big score going up on the board. You're at 6s and 7s. The ego's after taking a bit of a hit. And now lads are kind of maybe a little bit narky. What are we doing in the second half? So you need to have a plan A and a plan B. But all the time, if you go out there, you do the pitch walk, you go out and have a look. And okay, let's say you're not going with a sweeper. One of the things you do is say, listen, there's strong wind there. Yeah, I'd be sitting back. And I'd be as a half back line going out to the midfield saying, listen, lads, keep an eye on it. When they have their puck out or whatever like that, just if that ball goes over your head, you're 100 miles an hour back towards the goal because that ball is going to carry. And force Clare to take shots from distance for the first half if they want, because we've often seen teams start blaring about 10 wides in the first half because the radar is just a little bit off of a given day. So there's a bit of cuteness there with Dublin. And I saw people as well online saying oh, sure, look, it was a lackluster game because the teams have one eye in championship in 2 weeks. Yep, so do Limerick and Cork. I know people say, oh, Limerick are 3 weeks. Yeah, same thing, 2 or 3 weeks. But the difference is as well is that these teams aren't meeting each other again. So I don't think they really had to. There's an element there. We were building up for Cork and Limerick. We were saying that nobody wants to lose ground here because you're looking at each other in a few weeks. Clare and Dublin aren't, so I'll give them credit on that. That is kind of it's a lovely challenge match to have. I'll put it that way. But with Dublin, the one thing I have concern with Dublin is that this is a characteristic though of Dublin that we've seen over the last couple of years. And I'd hark back to, I was at the quarter-final match where they played Cork 2 years ago maybe in Semple Stadium. The one in Thurles, yeah. And they weren't there in the first half. They just weren't there. And with 10 minutes to go, and no word of 10 minutes to go, they suddenly realised we're out of the championship in a couple of weeks. Or we're out of the championship, in a couple of minutes if we don't hurl. And they started running at Cork and all this stuff. And I was going, why don't you do it from the start of the match instead of waiting around? And I know it's not an intentional thing, and I know no player wants to do it. But it's certainly something that when we see Dublin with the gun to their head, that listen, lads, you need to perform. They really put it up to teams. And we see now after last year that they do have the players. They've actually got an injection of players since last year. It's not even that they've lost lads. They now have more lads at their disposal. But for me, it's the thing of Dublin need to arrive from minute one. And I think Niall O'Callaghan even kind of said that afterwards, that he wasn't happy with their first half performance, which is an obvious statement. But in fairness to him, I think his interviews have been really good. He's been a really honest and transparent manager with his interviews. And he said in previous performances, and I'm thinking back to other matches where they've actually performed well and even won matches, that he wasn't happy. And in other matches, in fairness, where they maybe lost, but he was like, do you know what? I can hang my coat in that performance. Against Clare, regardless if you've won a championship in a couple of weeks, you can't hang your coat on the first half performance. There should still be a performance there, but maybe it was just symptomatic of the game because it was lackluster. And you can get onto Skehill all you want online. It was lackluster. It was not played like with the same intensity as Cork and Limerick. And I think you can justify that all you want, but it was a poor game until maybe 25 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go, and it really kicked in. Would it be fair in saying that, Skehill, you were there?
100% right, Murph. You're 100% right. I think people are they're misinterpreting what I meant. They think I'm probably calling them junior hurlers. I'm not calling them junior hurlers whatsoever. Top level senior intercounty hurlers. Just what you said, it just petered out.
Yeah,
it really did. Like it petered out, and you can always tell from the engagement of the crowd. You can people know a good product from the C1. That's reality.
Can I throw up the one? I know, Will. Sorry, as well. You're probably going to bring it up, but the Rory Hayes. Did I miss something there? I
have no idea what that's for. I thought he was fouled.
So apparently the reason
by Conor Cleary, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, no, the reason it was given. So Conor Cleary basically takes Hayes down. That's why Hayes ends up on the ground in the first place.
Yeah,
and then it was given the black card apparently for an attempted reckless use of the hurl.
But is that a red card?
So it looked like he was trying to pull him down.
But trying to pull him down
didn't make contact, obviously.
I thought that was a yellow card offence. That if he struck him.
That to me is I separate fouls between technical and tactical, right? A tactical foul for me is where I need to take him down.
Yeah.
And a technical foul is, I could say a slap for Hurley, a genuine contest and you foul him. That to me was a technical foul.
I can only presume what happened with the officials was they thought that he tried to hook the legs in a cynical way. It was like a takedown with her. Didn't happen though.
It didn't happen. The thing I'd be saying there is that if I ran after Alan Connolly and I tried to pull his jersey, but I didn't manage to do it, do I still get a black card? Let's say I reached out and the attempt. There's no attempt. Kind of.
There's no Nobel Prize for attempted chemistry, as they say.
Yeah, I get if they were going to give him a yellow, say, look, free in yellow. This rule was for the pull down, the wrap around, pull down, cynical tackle. The other side I'm going to say is, and I like the man, Hedger's penalty. That he fouled it.
Outrageous, I thought though. The penalty itself, I know he fouls the way he picks it up, but my God, what a finish!
Great finish. But he stepped over 21 by a nice bit,
he did.
So, the only reason I'm saying that is we go back to the points that we're saying. We always have these conversations during the league whereby the face guard, 2022, I think was the face guard. There was something else another stage. There's
throwing hand passes 2 years.
Throwing hand pass was the year of 24. There's something every year. But when the penalty was brought in, again, goes back to the time of Anthony Nash almost killing Stephen O'Keefe at Waterford because the two lads met each other halfway. So, right, lads, you can't strike it past the 21. It then became a benefit that to the defenders that there was 3 defenders on the goal and the forward. So then they got rid of the 2 defenders 1-on-1, but you couldn't go past the 21. And they were so strict on this. And I'm just conscious that this is a rule where I'm not looking for less goals in the game, but he blatantly stepped over it. So I'm just kind of going, if this gets later into championship and suddenly they start pulling it, will that frustrate supporters again? Do you know?
Potentially. I know Lohan was very unhappy with the black card. He was talking about the frequency of black cards that Clare have received as well. He felt that there's far too many he's getting far too many his team than other teams. It is a double whammy. As you say, the penalty should not have stood, and the penalty should not have been given. So from that point of view, it's a goal and they lose a player. The only thing for Clare is that they outscored Dublin 2-5 to 2 points during the period that they have a player in the bin. So it's a decisive period that actually goes in Clare's favour. Dublin just didn't make enough hay at that point, Skehill, even after getting the goal. If you're losing then, was it an 8 or 9 point turnaround for Clare after you're a man in the bin? That's going to kill you against the wind.
Rory Hayes is cornerback, right? So when he goes off, you're missing a back. So Clare pulled back into midfield half forward, right? And Dublin brought a spare man into the middle third and couldn't find him. Couldn't find him. What Clare left Clare left 2 lads inside their own kind of 50-yard line, or the opposition 50-yard line, and left everyone in kind of like a blockade, setting up shop, and they managed to score 2-5 in that 10 minutes. I thought it was criminal. And this is a perfect opportunity for Dublin to sit a spare man and put him right in front of the, block off a section of the pitch, let's say, with regard to the Clare for forward line. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Their sweeper or spare man was kind of, they were changing the sweepers too, let's say. Crummy was kind of trying to do a man-marking job and they were putting in Burke and then it was kind of a bit, scattered to a point, but they weren't sitting deep enough against the breeze. When you're against the breeze, you got to go way deep, because the ball's going to travel over you straight away. So, but just, they didn't, I lacked a bit of streetwise, I think, Will, to be fair. and in-game kind of management, which is so important in senior county. In-game management is critical.
It's like top few percent when you're trying to beat the real top teams can make the decision.
And it only becomes so evident when you don't do it right. When you do it right, no one bats an eyelid. No one thinks anything about it. When you don't do it right, it looks, it stands out an awful lot.
Yeah.
John, you noticed as well, Murph. I was listening to the radio at the start to hear Skehill and Tommy doing their first few bits from the Gaelic Grounds on the radio yesterday.
Yeah.
He was reeling off the stats, so he was.
I
Mark
was
Rogers,
so impressed.
98% free rate, 100% free rate before he went off yesterday as well. So now I'm watching Mark Rogers free, and I'm thinking that question, Murph, that was brought up a few weeks ago, who's the best free taker in the championship? Hopefully he's going to be fit for the game against Waterford. Maybe it's Mark Rogers.
No, I have to say, before you start now, I have to give a shout out to Tommy Guilfoyle, Clare FM. He gave me that stat.
He gave you the stat. Fabulous stat.
Yeah, because he said after they said that Mark Rogers, by their count, had only missed 2 frees in the whole league.
That's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. When you consider the weather conditions that he had to play in. Incredible. Incredible. But I wouldn't have, in fairness now, maybe he's brought his free taker to a new level. And some of the frees took yesterday were tricky. They were tricky on the sideline.
And with the wind as well, yeah.
Without the breeze, it can take the ball away from you. I wouldn't have classed him as in the upper echelon of free takers, but maybe he's getting himself up there. As we'll know over the next month. Or this could be revised.
Yeah, it was 9 from 9 from dead balls from yesterday. 8 frees, 165. Not bad. 12 points in all. So very much led their scoring, which is why they were so concerned when he went off holding the ankle initially and hobbling a little bit. So we shall see if he's going to be fit, Murph. But I mean, look, again, if Clare need a really good free taker, again, I'm not sure where Tony Kelly's exact fitness is at this point and so on. Maybe Rogers is that man.
I think he is, because no offense to Tony Kelly, he is 10 out of 10 and everything else, but there was a stage there where Clare were cycling through free takers, and it was kind of a different stage, and they didn't really settle on it. Like, it's great for any team, it doesn't matter who you are, that you just have a free taker and you're like, right, don't have to worry about that, that's the person taking it. And like, it's amazing even at the moment that we're seeing it now where Aidan O'Connor's taking the frees for Limerick, and it's not to get off the point that Clare or anything, but it's amazing, this testament to how well Aidan O'Connor must have been taking him in the off season or taking him at training or whatever, that he has now assumed that from Gillane. But as far as I'd be concerned, I wouldn't care who's taking him as long as the person's putting them over the bar. So whether it's Tony Kelly or whether it's Rogers banging him over, I wouldn't care if Ever Quilligan was coming up banging him over. If he's putting them over the bar, brilliant. Don't touch it. It's let him off and let him put him over.
Speaking of Quilligan, Skehill, the save from Keane O'Sullivan is remarkable. Brilliant. Now, there was part of me, and I do appreciate we had the wider view on the TV, but I was looking at Fergal Whiteley, who had broken off on the right-hand side in acres of space. I'm like, if you just square it, he's just going to tap it in for his second goal and maybe Dublin win the final. But I can understand where Keane O'Sullivan's coming from. He's got around the corner. He thinks there's a great chance to shoot across goal. It's a fabulous save from Quilligan. He made a few good saves during the game, but that's a fabulous save.
Like, I know he conceded 3 goals yesterday, but you can't fault him for the 3 goals, to be fair.
No. One's a poacher's finish, which you can do very little about. One's a penalty. And the other one is just a case of Fergal Whiteley turns and swings it on the ground and he's totally onside it. It goes through him.
I think in fairness, we don't give... I gave him a shout a couple of years ago as kind of an unsung hero for Clare. He's pulled off some saves in his time for Clare. In fairness to him. Yeah. We don't probably give him the credit because he doesn't do the kind of the acrobatic saves some keepers do at times, right? But like, he has pulled off some of the saves like religiously on a consistent basis, and he's decent on the high ball. He's a good staff of the ball. He seems calm. Like, he's a good rock. He's very solid for Clare. I have to give it to him. Like, I can be harsh on goalies. Don't get me wrong, harsh on myself like, in terms of assessment, right? But like, I judge them on 2 things: one, how they stop the ball and deal with it in open play, and B, how they manage the game with their hook out. And I can't fault him. Every goalie is liable for a mistake every now and then, absolutely. But it's to get them down to a rare timing if you can, and he's got that stage now at the moment. He's very, very solid, rock solid.
Yeah, and like, I'm just thinking on the technicalities of the Keane O'Sullivan save as well. He gets strong wrists on it, because what could happen there is, this might sound counterintuitive, but it goes over the bar as opposed to coming back out. If he gets a much softer touch on that, Whiteley just has a tap in.
Yeah, so when he's saving it, right, when he saves it, he kicks his wrists up, okay, to elevate it up and out. If he just stops it dead, it becomes a rebound. You know what I mean? So that in itself is kind of, it's a little nuance in the save itself, and I don't think people see it. A bit like Galan's goal, the way he curved it in to get it outside colours. Yeah. The way Quilligan does that, he kicks his wrist up, boom, like to shoot it up, knowing in a millisecond, this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
So if I don't do this, it's going to end up in a green flag regardless. So that kind of execution in a millisecond it's just like the instinctive, ability of Galan for his goal. It's the same for Quilligan for his save. That's just he's in the sticks for so long that he does that. Again, that's technically doesn't look like it. That's technically very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. Is to get up and out.
Murph, can I give a shout out to Dermot Ryan here as well? So he ends up with 3 points, and their point, I think he only got 1 or 2 during the league, and then the final he steps up big style, because at the time when Dublin were coming back into it, and I think they only got back within a point once in the second half, but there was still this feeling that they were hanging in it towards the end because it was down to a 3-4 point game. When the game seemed to be swinging a bit on Clare, he just marauds up the pitch and gets 3 wonderful points.
Yeah, but like he's probably one of these, and it's probably another category we can get into. It's actually probably a great category to get into, is unsung heroes. You know, because like I was even looking at Conor Lean there the other day as well, and I was going like, geez, you know, that when they won the All Ireland, he was absolutely outstanding as well. But Dermot Ryan, for so long there, when Clare were getting their charge up and going for actually going and winning the final in 24, even think of the previous 2 years before that, he was top class. And I'm thinking of him, great athleticism, great handling, but he was always great at driving forward and getting a score like that. And it's interesting, you know, when I did see him popping up, and you're right, there wasn't many moments during that game where I felt, well, this is an important moment because the game was the nature of what it was. But I did notice that. You particularly notice it when he's pushing, like a player like him is, as he got one of the points, I think he was in the full forward line. He was nearly on the 14-yard line when he got it. And you see a fella driving forward like that, full of intent, looking for the ball, popping it over. Like it's leadership. You can say lots of things about it, but it's huge leadership. But again, he's probably a fella because, you know, we look around and we say John Conlon, you know, great fella there. You look at, you know, Tony Kelly, or you're looking at McInerney, all this stuff. Probably don't mention, or maybe haven't mentioned Dermot Ryan as much, but he's been so consistent over the years for them. Great player. And I would say if you're looking for a fella, and look, maybe lads will correct me on that, but if you're looking for a fella who doesn't give anything less than kind of an 8 out of 10 every day he goes out in terms of work rate, in terms of getting stuck in, I've always been impressed with him. But I will almost say, like, sometimes forget he's there and he's hurling position and he's doing a savage job, you know. But it's great for him to give him absolutely and deservedly give him credit in this situation where one of the more mature heads on the panel, when they needed it, and they're right, like Dublin had a shot there that they could come back and actually turn over Clare. It was an opportunity, needed lads to step up. Fair play to Dermot Ryan. In past we would have seen Tony Kelly's or Shane O'Donnell's and all this, but fair play to him. He deserves the plaudits as you die there.
Yeah, indeed. As I said, to get a cough and a half. I'd used the cough button to cough just before that. Then I took a little swig of my, this week, orange, my waddy, which means around nicely before I ask about Clare's prospects for the year. Murph, someone had said, Paul Murphy has seen the light on this week before Easter and he has gone to blackcurrant, my waddy. I believe you were having something slightly different.
This is a really important topic now, actually, but Forest Fruits was the one I was having there. Not even as hard.
I was going to say, is this from an alternate brand? Is Forest Fruits my waddy or is it Robinson's?
It is by what is the equivalent? You know, forest fruits is kind of the miscellaneous berries fonged in to make a drink. Middle Isle Aldi, that's what I'm just going to tell you. I was walking up to another day. I walk up to Middle Isle and have these slabs, or like, you know, somebody couldn't get rid of these. They're going. I'm
going to buy stuff for the garden I'll never use. That type of thing. Yeah,
they're going. Yeah, exactly. Like there's a cordless drill in a wetsuit beside it. Like, but like walking up the aisle, I saw it there. There was like these pallets of like, I was like, what's that now? And we go through serious my waddy on this. So it is my waddy, but I think it's some sort of forest fruit is what I'm going to say. So I haven't fully migrated to blackcurrant. I don't know if I'm there yet.
I'll give it a go. I bought the orange this week when I was shopping. Skehill, are you on blackcurrant this week?
I'm on whenever the wife fills for me.
Yeah. It looked blackcurrant earlier on. It did jump into my mind.
So in fairness to her, she's a gem. She put 8 pint glasses in the fridge. and I leave. Yeah, I drink. I'm like, oh, I drink a ferocious amount of water, but she puts it in the fridge.
Do you know what I love about this? Like, the woman's after giving birth to 4 of your children, she's holding down the fort there while you're. But her putting pint glasses in the fridge makes her a gem. That was the threshold. That was the threshold for her being a gem.
But when my own mother says to me, "How did you get her?"
Yeah. Jesus, I love that though. I tell you what, she's a gem. We're at this podcast 5 years, and she's done lots of things for you. But it's
the most loving you've ever spoken about her.
Well, yeah,
she's in the fridge.
I know I can be guilty at times of extracting the urine out of her and putting the piss a bit, but she is exemplary. She takes care of me. She openly says, "Murph, I'm her 5th child." Do you know what I mean?
There's part of me at the moment who's kind of going, am I a fool here? Because what I'm doing is I'm putting the cordial into my drink and then taking the cold water which I have over here and putting it in. Maybe what I need to do is just pour a few of them out and have them in the fridge ready to go.
Oh, that's what I do, yeah. 8 a day. Now, are you one of those psychopaths, right? Are you a psychopath that puts my waddy in first?
I think that's the right way to do it. My chemistry teacher would have said that is the right way to do it.
Why is that the right
You
way?
put the concentrate in and then the dilutant afterwards. You're saying that you put the water in and then you put the my body on top.
You could fuck it. Will you could fuck it up like if you put in too much concentrate and not enough water, you have to taste. You have to drink a bit out and it's stinging you.
You heartburn. You heartburn.
You put the water in. You put the water in first, and you just do it just perfectly to get the.
Can I throw something out there now that you haven't maybe considered? Have you got sparkling water for it yet? Have you done that?
It feels a bit like a soft drink. I actually feel it's an extra. I actually like putting sparkling water into it.
But it basically is like so. It's a fizzy drink, but it's not like loads of sugar. So there you are. Just go now again. I'm going to Middle Isle Aldi, pick up an old slab of I don't know what the name of the stuff is, but it's the green label on it anyway. Bring home a slab of that, throw that in, a bit of a fizz in it.
So you're saying don't knock it till you try it.
Exactly. I think you gave a recommendation of something previously and we tried it.
Well,
jam and eggs.
But then my uncle told me recently, on Mother's Day actually, he said that when he finishes a work shift, he'll go home, he'll have 6 cans of Heineken, right? Right?
Just casually.
But what he does, he has a glass of wine, right? A glass of wine, okay? Yeah. And when he gets halfway down in the wine, he puts the Heineken on top of the wine.
No.
Yeah.
He's making a wine spritzer.
And I'm going to hang him here. I said, Gabriel, you're psychotic. I said, you're crazy. Like, and he goes, don't knock it till you try it, my friend. So I haven't the bravery yet to try it. But
Jesus.
Heineken on top of red wine. So, first of all, a can of Heineken on top of red wine.
Absolutely not.
Is there a name of that? Do you know the way some lads come out with these names for like?
Do you know what it's called? It's called fucking paint thinner. That's what it's called. Because that'll shake. That's like brick acid. Oh my god.
There's no chance. Like it was a few mates of ours in school who tried to do the intermission thing of putting the brown sauce into the tea.
Yeah,
and
that was
just nonsense. Like
was nonsense. Yeah, I saw a fellow one time putting a Barocca into a vodka and like 7-Up. During the night, he was on a day session, but he put a Barocca into it, and he called it a Barack Obama. He said, if you're starting to get wore down in the day session, he said, I bring a packet of Baraccas with me interrupted. I was like, I think we have to put a disclaimer up there about sensible drinking. Will
please do not put a Barocca into a double vodka with 7-Up. The only thing is, right, I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to get the mix right, Skehill, at this stage.
You can eyeball it.
But what about your different glasses that?
Again, the only time it's ever gone wrong for me, right? I bought a few of the I think I've thrown it in the bin. I bought a couple of those, the little concentrate ones that you can bring with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're a difficult one to judge because you kind of think 2 squirts into my 500ml bottle should be fine. No, I give it one more, and next thing it is absolutely rancid, and you've ruined the bottle.
Yeah. You've ruined the bottle as well. Yeah.
So I sympathise with you from that point of view, but I still think the best thing to do. In the comments, by all means, should you be putting your concentrate in before your dilutant, which would be the water, which is the right thing to do, or am I a psychopath for doing the right thing?
You are psychotic. Just accept it, okay?
I'm fine. I have no problem with that. I have no problem being a psycho for doing it right. A few other bits and bobs, and we will go on to Clare then in a second and what their hopes are for the year. Colin McCarthy was in touch. The clip that Paul was talking about, which is the Limerick quote, is actually used at the start of the Sporting Limerick podcast as well.
Brilliant.
That might be the intro to how you use it. So they sent me a video of the Sporting Limerick one. So if you want to look up Sporting Limerick YouTube or Sporting Limerick Twitter, you'll see it there. And you'll see the exact quote that Murph was talking about last week. The Cork sombrero man, who I saw on TG Carr yesterday as well, Cyril Cavan is his name. Comes in from AC and KK. I wonder, is that a Kilkenny supporter potentially? And Aisha Hurley in contact, as is often the way. Skehill, the code for Orby is CH6490.
Yeah, I gave it the wrong one live. Yeah, I have it on my phone, but I don't know off by fucking heart. Jesus.
I know, yeah. But look, it's 2 of these Venn diagrams that come together. Our women listeners, the farming listeners, both come into one, and it also combines in the bits of shy talk you don't expect people to follow up on in the comments, but it's the exact thing they follow up in the comments. So
yeah.
Now, for anyone else that needs to know what to get, that's it.
Yeah, and today was a good day. I got some of the cattle out at long last.
Yeah, it's not a bad day today, no, in fairness.
It's different up here in the west, lads. Different up here in the west. We don't get the same weather you get, Murph, down there in the sunny southeast.
Yeah. You get a few breaks, in fairness.
We have rain 95% of the time. So we have.
Did you get a good stormy one this week, Skehill? I thought the windows were going to come in on Friday night, but actually today was lovely.
You see, it's a bit like if you live in America, right? If you're down in Florida, your definition of storm is way different if you live in Boston.
Yeah.
So a storm to me now, right? And a storm to someone else, let's say up the east side of the country, way different.
Yeah, sure. You had Storm Owen or Ewan. What was that called? Storm Owen.
Era, he brought half the place more, whoever he was,
Yeah,
right?
he did.
That was a fucking storm. And I was, for some reason, I heard a ferocious bang during the night at like 3 a.m. That storm last January or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And then this idiot right here, pointing directly at myself, decided I better go out and just check if something is drastically, in bother. I was afraid of fire. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? And when I opened the door, I'll never forget the roar I heard of the storm. I'll never forget it. I never had it like it in my life. You know what I mean? It was crazy. So much so that to get back in the house, right, I had to fall down on the ground and crawl. That's how strong the wind was. Yeah, my hat is gone. My hat ends up in fucking probably Athlone somewhere, right? But like, that's how strong the wind was. I couldn't believe how bad it was. But like, so hopefully that never comes back. That was a freaking storm. So yesterday or the weekend was just a fart. That's what it was.
See, for those of us in the Midlands who don't generally get these storms, we're like, oh, that is a little bit sketchy outside, but it wasn't all that bad, really. Okay. I think a lot of the other comments were kind of more prediction-y stuff for last week, so I think I've covered most of them, but by all means, we'll come back at it. Something that did come up, though, that I noticed over the weekend, Murph, and again, this is not to totally get away from the second game, because I want to ask you about Clare for the summer before we finish up. But does Darragh Fitzgibbon stay around the half-forwards now, or actually are Cork better off bringing him deeper? I meant to ask it earlier, forgot about it entirely.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I have preferred Fitzgibbon. I'm just trying to think. He's been more effective at midfield, really. I think. I'm trying to think back. There was some other player, like when we mentioned Kieran Joyce there as well previously. I prefer Kieran Joyce either half back or like we even saw him playing midfield a couple of years ago against Clare, and I prefer Owen Downey in at fullback, even though, and that's not against Kieran Joyce. Kieran Joyce had a great game the other day, but I prefer him out a little bit further. I also prefer Fitzgibbon, I think, at midfield. Again, from the point of view, I just prefer the runs that he can make. Like his engine is unreal. It's probably like Adam English, really. Like we see Adam English gets the first score of the game the other day. Because he's just running. Kyle Hayes gets the ball, runs into the channel. Kyle Hayes pops it over, and he strikes it on his own 14 and tips back out to midfield, no problem. Fitzgibbon has that engine as well. When he's half forward, I feel he just he's a little bit more limited because he comes out to the ball and then has to wheel back in towards goal. But we think of him even setting up so many players over the years where he's just making a straight line run, almost starting from the half back line, running at his own forwards, picks up a ball, and he's gone through. I think I prefer him at midfield. Now, the thing is about it, what have we had? Tim O'Mahony and Tommy O'Connell looking like the main two lads in midfield. I have to give full credit again to Tommy O'Connell. I think he's been one of the lads who's been really putting a hand up for a jersey. And at the same time, Tim O'Mahony has been really good as well over the last couple of years as well. So it's probably always a good place to be that we always say that teams want to get to this situation where you have a tough decision to make of who do you play, who do you not play. But for me, I think if you're playing Fitzgibbon in his best position, I think it's midfield. What do I know? Ben O'Connor sees him a lot more training. But from what I've seen in matches, I've seen him more effective in the midfield area. And I'm open to correction, unless he's been playing a little bit more in the half-forward line than I think he has. But I think he's done most of his savage hurling at midfield. So yeah. I think he should return there. I don't know what's your view now, but
yeah, well, look at throw it to you, Skehill. I mean, the argument was at times Cork supporters were saying actually he's a bit more effective a little bit further forward, and prefer if we maybe got a different midfield partnership, and he could have the license to be 100% in the half forward as opposed to breaking into that position. Where would you deploy him?
I would just say, you see, it's a bit tricky for me now at the minute because Tommy O'Connell, as Murph has pointed out, has added a little bit of steel in the midfield, which I think you'd have to say that in last year's balance, like Tim O'Mahony was nearly providing a bit of steel, if you get me.
Yeah.
Fitzgibbon was providing the go forward ball, the flair, the shooting element, right? I don't want to see Tommy O'Connell taken out of the team. I think they need him. I think he played really well yesterday, said Murph. Like Keane Lynch didn't have a huge impact on the game, if you like, or English was good. But if you take Fitzgibbon out of half forward, you have to replace him with a forward.
Yeah.
You can't replace him with O'Connell or Mahoney at the moment. So which forward do you bring in? And does your team get better or worse? I think your team gets slightly worse, to be honest. Would you see Tim Mahoney going back to wing back? I think he's gone away from that position now and gone into more an advanced role. Like he played in the forwards for Lieutenant Shannon for a period. We've seen him as centre forward this year. You know, I think from a team selection perspective, it's not as clear cut as other counties at the moment. I think we maybe have to leave Fitzgibbon when I say we, I think they may have to leave Fitzgibbon in the half forward to provide the right balance. If you know what I'm saying. But he can play both. I know what you're saying, Murph. Fitzgibbon is deadly midfield. He provides 100% efficiency. He's class. But like we're saying, he's 99.9 and a half hurling. We're not saying he's terrible in that hurling. We're just saying, where does he provide the most, threat and balance for Cork? And I think at the minute you'd say he's probably better as a midfielder, but from a team perspective, he might have to stay moving forward.
Yeah, true.
No, absolutely. I said I'd just bring it up because a few people were kind of asking around at the weekend. Now, what we're going to do is we're not going to do members pod this week. For next week, we want to kind of do our team of the league and stuff like that. So I will pin it in the Spotify and in the YouTube where I can put the comments. Bring us your nominations for next week, and the two lads will pick their performance of the league, their player of the league, all that type of stuff next week, and we will square off another members pod ahead of the preview, ahead of the championship. And that's the reason I didn't want to do what League Sunday did last night, which was they went, let's pick our three to come out of both provinces. Let's do that. That's the conversation for next week. I promise we'd have it at some point. Let's do that ahead of the championship getting underway. But Don Logue's comments pissed a few Tipperary people off. Did you see these, Murph?
I didn't see him. Go on.
You turned it off 48 at Sunday, didn't you?
Murphy,
I'll react. I tell you, I didn't watch it last night. I actually threw it on this morning.
No, okay.
Well, no, do you know what? This is a live reaction now. I can live react to what Don Logue said. So
I can pull up the exact quotes here because I was last night. I was not out. I was not partying on a bank holiday Sunday, so I decided, you know what? If I'm going to be at home, I'll watch League Sunday live, particularly when it's going to be, an all hurling League Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering where they were going to go.
And while you find that, Will, right? This is for a man who, from a hurling perspective, doesn't have much love for Tip. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But even I felt slightly offended.
Oh my God.
I was like, Jesus, that's like I've said some things in the past myself, even up to yesterday, right? That get yourself in hot water with opposition fans. But this, I mean, whew.
This will be good now. So
there was a narrative which he took umbrage with, was this idea that Tipper coming in under the radar, coming into the championship. And again, I can understand why some Tipperary fans got their backs up a little bit around this too, because almost the discussion out of last night was, that league final's over now. Can't wait for the 26th, Porky Queeve, the big rematch. Kind of forgetting the Cork have to play Tipperary in the first round. Tipperary were the ghosts in the room who weren't being talked about pretty much at that point. And then Donald says, I don't understand the argument how they're coming in underneath the radar. I heard both of you, Ursula Jacob and Joanne Cantwell, who were on the panel last night, saying that today. How are they coming in there with all their victories over the last number of years, with documentaries about their victory last year? And the minute I kind of saw that, I was like, ooh, they're bringing up this fly in the wall documentary straight away.
Yeah, okay.
And then he basically says, there's a big story in all this about the fact they haven't won back-to-back since the 1960s. And then he was saying that it's been a case of Tipperary been talking about this. He said he was talking to a man who was out in the States who heard them talking about it at some dinner at some point. And then he says, all the pressure's on Tipperary. They're looking for back-to-back. They rise and fall, Murph, faster than everyone else.
Ooh.
And that has made the Tipperary fans go, whoa, Don Logue, you didn't need to add this extra spice in ahead of this game.
Yeah, and again, I know Don Logue as well. Do you reckon he was throwing it in to throw in a bit of, listen lads, I have a grenade in my pocket here now, I'll throw it out and walk away and watch it blow up? Do you reckon there's a bit of that? Like, I'm not saying he doesn't believe that statement, but you'd look for a bit more evidence before you say something like that.
Do you not reckon that the word from Cork people coming about Tip of late has been, there's a bit of slight being thrown at them?
In what way now?
So did you hear Horgan's comments a couple of weeks ago about Tipperary? He said he essentially classified them as being lucky, like that the Cork threw it away.
Okay.
No, I don't have the specific wording, and I'm not going to find it either. If I'm searching.
Yeah. Paraphrasing.
When I was watching it and reading back, I was thinking that looks like he's throwing a bit of slight at Tipperary, not giving them full value for their victory last year.
Yeah.
And then you hear about I was just like, Jesus, they're not happy. They're not accepting that as a result. They're blaming themselves more than giving I suppose kudos to Tipperary for going and winning a game.
Yeah. I get you. That's the thing. Like your starting point has to be that. Like your starting point has to be, listen, as tough as it is to swallow, better team on the day, and that's what it comes down to. Better team on the day, grand, whatever, move on. You'd wonder, like, sure, maybe it's just a simple case that this is what the lads think and that's what they believe and they're throwing it out there. As a neutral, the one thing I'm thinking of, like, I'm going to sit back. Like, it's like the lad with the popcorn watching the Munster Championship. They're sitting back in Leinster looking in over the fence. But it'll definitely add spice to it. Like, there's a part of me going, like, obviously, if I was a Tipperary supporter, I'd be absolutely fuming over that. Of course I would. But there's a part of me going, God, isn't that like great petrol to a bonfire? Like, I mean, the Munster Championship doesn't need that. Whereas there's lads doing it. It's like, right, leave him on. There's a great phrase there that I saw during the week, and I think it was referring to the situation in Iran at the moment about China. And it was something like, never interrupt your enemy while he's saying something,
making mistakes,
essentially. So if I was Tipperary supporters, I would put that in the back pocket, because the day will come, like whether it's tomorrow or a week later or 10 weeks later, you'll get your opportunity. But look, the other side is, and again, I've had many great chats with Don Logue. He's a great fella. But I remember a time where he gave out about Kilkenny because, what was it?
You were the Stepford Wives, weren't you?
No, go back again.
No,
it was actually after this, but the reference was before. He said something about our involvement in the Civil War wasn't that of Cork. So, I was like, that's a random thing to throw at Brian Cody's team. You know what I mean? But so there's been haymakers thrown out before in the past about counties and about different teams. But I get it. I get the Tipperary supporters. Like, they're All Ireland champions. They're deserving All Ireland champions. I'd be unhappy about someone saying that. The other side is just maybe Donal Logue is putting it out there, and if he's proven, not to say if he's proven right, but let's say Tipperary did make it out of Munster, Donal Logue will turn around and say, well, I nailed my colours to the mast. Maybe he's doing that. So it's intriguing. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, just tip back that fact. Tweeted me earlier.
This is not going to be in support of Donal Logue, I guess.
It's surprising it wasn't going. Donal Logue was spot on. We are flaky. Will, question for the pod. Thoughts on Donal Logue's slander of Tipperary hurling? Add in with Patrick Horgan's comments from a few weeks ago. Curious if the lads ever had opposition media, former players' comments, and were they used as team motivation. Did that ever happen, Skehill? This idea that we have in the media where we go, we love this on a Monday, especially after a weekend, where it goes, they're going to pin that up on the dressing room wall, that type of thing. Has that ever actually happened?
I think there was something in the past. We wasn't even from other counties; it's from within our own. You might remember. I would have talked about some of the members of the 1988 team would have conveniently have articles in the paper, particularly the Irish Independent, about us having not won in a long time. So there's probably snippets of that was taken out and put up on the walls. But I think it was done during a time when we still didn't win. So in the little period we had, I can't remember now. Again, I'll have to ask lads who have better memory than me, but I don't believe we ever used quotes or anything. There was a funny where Lucknan gave a dig to me. I don't know who called him. I think Father Trendy or something like that. Or was there some Father Ted reference or something like that?
Yeah. Father Trendy, yeah.
So he looked like Father Trendy on the sideline. So that was I won't lie. I got a fair giggle at that, even though I don't even watch Father Ted. But just Lucknan, you know the way look like a picture Lucknan now watching Father Ted. Yeah. Look at the immediates, yeah. But I can't look at nothing else comes to mind, man.
I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe I'm going to be totally surprised here. I can't imagine Brian Cody at any point come in with the newspaper and went, look at what they've been saying about us.
No, he didn't say that. No, the funny one thing, like, so Brian's thing would always be telling us not to read the newspapers, don't stick your head out of all of that. So, but invariably, I suppose lads would have, when there's big topics, in the papers and different things. But I do remember the one, Skehill, after we drew the All Ireland in 2012. And whether it happened or didn't happen, it wasn't pinned to the wall of the dressing room. But the whole one where, Canning, where Henry put the ball over the bar did we have a penalty? And
I fouled him, sure. I fucking fouled him.
You fouled Larkin, was it? Did you foul Larkin?
I stood out on top of Larkin, yeah.
I actually remember, because I think I poked the ball down and it landed in, and Larkin flicked it and you tackled him, and it was a penalty, but it was a penalty going back to 3 lads on the goal, isn't that it?
Yeah, and we saved one off in the first half, so I was thinking, he's going to go for this again, but he put it over the bar.
Put over the bar, and Canning's thing then, whether, like, again, I don't know whether a journalist ran with it and it wasn't actually the case, but it was something like that. Canning said that JJ was given out that Henry didn't go for goal, which, like, wouldn't be JJ's style at all. So I remember we heard that and we were like, now the thing is about it, and this is putting in a player's mindset. If it's good for you, even if of a normal time you wouldn't believe it, you'll force yourself to believe it there, because it might give you a little bit of fuel, it might give you a little bit of an edge. It wasn't pinned to the dressing room, didn't come up in a big speech. It was just kind of mentioned that, like, here, lads, you see what Canning's after saying, like, he gave an interview after the final, and that JJ was, and like JJ might take a personal insult to that, and whatever else. So that was the only one. I don't think anyone ever came out and like directly said anything about us. That, but now, do you know what?
Look, Dan, we played G07 for my first year. Look, Nan said that she were dirty, that she were getting away with slaps on the hands and slaps.
I always remember that, the slaps in the
I was
hand.
going, oh, geez, shut up with that. Don't give me any more ammunition.
Yeah. This is because I
Tommy
remember
Walsh always slapping lads in the hands, dirty to the player. Like,
yeah. I remember that one at the time as well, because it's such a silly one. It's like that one where lads go, "Oh, Limerick are using the extra arm." It's like, lads, you're like, they're blowing you off the field. If Limerick are beating you by 20 points, the extra arm ain't the reason. Like, but I don't remember any haymakers really.
No. Was there one as well, Murph, where it wasn't a haymaker, but I think, was it Limerick 2019, where a few of your players kind of took exception to, like, Limerick are going to outwork everybody, and therefore it was just kind of used as a small motivation among a group.
No, we spoke about that one. I spoke to Flanagan about it. It was Seamus said it in an interview, and he said it in a very, look, we know Seamus, he's very honest and open in terms of how he was interviewed, and it's actually really refreshing. But he was at a launch of something, and I think it was the Munster Championship that year, and I think he said something along the lines of, which is a fair statement, where he's like, we believe when we work hard that no one can outwork us. That basically it was almost like they had a monopoly on work rate. So we did genuinely. Now there was a thing there where we went, that's like, if you don't take offense to that, and that's maybe touching back to a few of the points I'd mentioned previously, where I'm like, if the Cork lads don't take offense to their performance in the first 10 minutes, like, you should be taking offense. You should be disappointed. You should, So when you hear an opposition player, particularly that you're about to play them, and he makes a comment like that saying that, well, we believe that we actually own work rate and that we're going to, and I remember chatting to Seamus about it, because I was like, I had mentioned it on this pod, or I mentioned it in a live show on the Times, and I was like, did you understand the angle I was saying there? And he was like, as soon as I gave the interview afterwards, I was like, why did I say that? There was no need for me to say that. But I was like, yeah, we love that. And like, because in fairness, in that match in 2019, like, Jesus, we took off at an awful rate, because again, it goes back to clarity of thought. In our mind, we were like, we're going out here to prove that we can work hard. We weren't even thinking of score lines or anything like that. So yeah, that was maybe a good example of one we used. Yeah.
All right. There you go, people. It's not a case of this is ever pinned to a dressing room wall. That appears to be a bit of a media or fan narrative, but sometimes things will get mentioned. And again, Simri, I think Canning, to be fair to him, I think we asked him about it in the road show as well, Skehill. He was annoyed about the way that kind of became any type of fuel for the Kilkenny dressing room anyway.
He was annoyed with the result. I'd say of how it was kind of probably misconstrued. And I think he was probably misquoted to a degree as well. And sometimes what you'd say in print can be misinterpreted completely by the reader.
Yeah, because you don't get to hear the tone it's said in, or you don't get to hear the context.
Exactly, the context of the question, you can't get the full clip. As you said, tone, there's no explanation attributed to it after. And I think he was misquoted. And look, the journalist, I don't know who the journalist was, Will, but he took a snippet of it and ran with it and made a story of it. But at the time, I didn't even know he said it at the time. I only found out after.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, I think it makes fuck all difference.
It does.
No difference whatsoever.
No.
Kilkenny were 10 points better than us anyway. That's it.
Yeah. I presume JJ and Henry were going to hurl the way that JJ and Henry did. It wasn't going to be a case of either of them took any motivation from it, really.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Right, so there you go. Pinning things in the dressing room walls doesn't really happen. Kind of, but not really. Hurling Pod, here and off the ball, is thanks to Applegreen, helping you relax, recharge, and enjoy the journey ahead. You will get a double pod next week, where we'll do the league awards, and we'll also preview the first round of Munster and Leinster next weekend as well. But for now, Paul Murphy, thanking you.
Thanks, lads.
James Skehill, well done with the calves today. It's been a productive weekend for you.
Oh, it's been a tough week. The fucking chaos. Anyways, look, leaving that note. God bless.
Right, go on. See you later.
The Hurling Pod.
On Off the Ball.
With Applegreen. Making every journey better.